This story begins with a man asking if this is how it ends. He confesses his apologies, acknowledging his weakness and blaming Chris for being the true hero. However, a woman intervenes, revealing that he is actually the hero named Evan. She emphasizes that they all gave their best, and if Chris had only learned swordsmanship a bit earlier, he could have achieved 9 stars and become a 10-star hero. If only that had happened, they could have prevented the end. Evan, the jack of all trades and master of all, is known as the great extra character. His journey began when he was 20, after escaping his clan and dreaming of success. While working in the back alleys, he stumbled upon a scene of flying wyverns, the invasion of the Magic Empire by the Demon King of Carnage, the Age of Destruction. Amidst the chaos and panic, Evan noticed a recruitment notice for a party traveling with the hero. He saw this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to achieve greatness and enjoy wealth and honor afterward. However, his dreams were shattered when they failed, and the Dominion of Light fell into the hands of the Demon King. Evan expresses his wish to turn back time, hoping to select Chris as the hero. Chris questions his meaning, stating that even if he could turn back time, he wouldn't relive this suffering. He believes that one life of suffering is enough, and there's no point in daydreaming about it when the world is about to end. As they all gaze up at the sky, the impending doom hangs heavy in the air. He declares that this is truly it. In his next life, not that it exists, but if it does, he hopes to be born into the family of a wealthy nobleman. That was his final thought. The scene shifts to a later time as he gazes down at his hands. He reveals that he has actually regressed and been reborn into the body of a young master of the Magic Empire. He introduces the place he now inhabits as the Dark Magic Clan. As the name suggests, it is one of the 12 clans that support the Magic Empire. From what he has gathered, he has regressed 15 years into the past to reiterate. He has returned to 5 years before the onset of the Age of Destruction. And here he thought he had experienced everything in his previous life. He never imagined encountering demon beasts tending to a garden. Moreover, he is certain of whose body he is in. His name is Christian von Baron-Khazar, so we see Chris conversing with a fox woman as she regales him with tales of a fiend with the middle name of Von. She explains that the house of Count Khazar is a branch family of Baron County, or the Dark Magic Clan. Chris inquires about its relative strength, and she responds that it is not weaker. While it is a branch family, it maintains good standing within the Dark Magic Clan. And not to mention, they are incredibly wealthy. He doubts that he will find anyone within the Magic Empire who is unaware of them and that they have 2 potential successors, but the eldest son, Christian, is a real bastard among bastards. He always goes around causing trouble. Count Khazar eventually gave up on him, but this is old news at this point. Though Chris asked why and if he straightened up or something, and she says no, he actually ended up getting murdered by his relatives. Back to reality, Chris is sweating bullets. Then he says that he just wanted to become the son of a regular old rich family and wonders why he just had to regress here, why he had to be this person of all people since he is destined for death. And he starts wondering what he did so wrong, telling himself to think he awoke in this body with a coin incidentally similar in name to his. It's only been 3 days, and that he's going to die in 2 years from now. The fact that he was eliminated within the house of Count Khazar, a family that places great importance on honor, it probably means that he was an absolute trash human being. And if he just stays nice and quiet, he might be able to avoid his death. But he says that since he's woken up as a rich kid, he should just take care of himself and enjoy the wealth and honor. But he hits himself with a reality check, hitting his forehead, saying there's no way that'll happen. And that Ragnarok, the end of the world, is also the reason that the Demon King of Carnage started the war. It was to put humanity up as a sacrifice to complete Ragnarok. And it was already too late by the time they realized it. And both the Dominion of Light and the world met their ultimate demise. So if he wants to survive, he needs to stop the apocalypse as well. And the Demon King of Carnage is one thing. Considering he was the one to actually start the war, the bigger problem is that the countless number of fiends of the Magic Empire are loyal to him. To stop this, he needs to become someone more powerful than the Demon King himself. At this rate, there's only one way for him to actually accomplish this: he needs to become the Demon Emperor and sit at the pinnacle of the Magic Empire. He's been given 5 years before the Age of Destruction begins, and he might as well give it a go. And if he succeeds, this entire empire will become his. It then jumps to his father, yelling out to him, slamming on the table, saying that he told him to remain in his room and for him to reveal his face here after causing the incident not long ago. He must have a death wish. And if he acts out of line one more time, he will personally cut his head off. Chris says that Count Khazar sure is one intimidating dude, but Chris says that he came here to apologize for all the wrongdoings he's committed until now. Since if he wants to go forward with his plan, he needs to get rid of his horrible image. His father asks what he's saying, and Chris drops to his knees, saying that he is truly sorry for everything he's done and it'll never happen again. His father asks if he's really trying to get him to believe this only a few days after his last stunt. And if he's trying to mock him. Chris wonders what exactly he did. He's heard so many stories that he can't even think about what it could be. Chris says the fault for making him lose trust in him is his fault. However, 3 days ago, he also mentioned that he lost a portion of his memories. To reclaim those memories, he reflected on his past actions and has realized just how wrongly he's been living his life. His heart beats with the truth of it. His father says that he's heard his excuses countless times. Chris says that's right because excuses made with words alone mean nothing and that he will show him with his actions going forward. And that he would like to be sent to the punishment cave, and he will remain there for a month and show him a different version of himself. We learned that the punishment cave is a prison used for high-status fiends, and it is a place where not only is there no light, but all 5 of your senses are blocked. Even just a few days is enough to drain one's mind. However, it's perfect for him right now, and he needs somewhere to escape the gazes of others. His father asks if he's going to confine himself for a whole month inside of it because he doubts that he's even capable of lasting half a day. Chris says that he's well aware of how difficult a place it is, however, he thinks that that is the bare minimum for him to trust him. His father looks down at him, asking if he even understands how many times they've had this conversation. Each time he's only left him disappointed once more, but he'll play along and give him one last chance. However, if nothing changes after a whole month, he will banish him from the clan. Chris says that would be a death sentence as there is a long list of people who will aim for his life once he loses protection of the clan, but he decides that it's worth the risk and tells his father that he understands. But if he can prove that he has changed, he would like him to grant a request. His father gets a little annoyed, saying he sounds arrogant as if he is certain he will come out unscathed, but if he can show him that he has turned over a new leaf, he will grant him any request. Not that he will believe that will ever happen. Sometime later, back in Chris's room, the butler enters, saying the punishment cave has been prepared. His name is Cox, and he is a half-vampire. Chris says that he sees it, and as they start walking out of the room down the hallway, all of the maids and butlers are asking if they've heard about how Chris has volunteered to enter the cave. They wonder what scheme he's pulling. There was an incident where he insulted the young lady of the Poison Magic clan and that it was an incident that the Count himself had to personally apologize for and that it's pretty embarrassing having to save face against a rival clan. They wonder when he's ever going to mature, but they still have their doubts, he ever will. They start debating on how long he'll last in the cave, and one of them says 2 days is definitely the max. But Chris smiles as he walks down the hallway, and we see what I assume is his younger brother also eavesdropping. It then jumps to the punishment cave, and Cox tells him that they have arrived. Chris looks up at one of the statues outside of it, and it turns out it's not only a statue but rather a Death Knight, which is a guard, and he says this is pretty fitting of the Magic Empire, but he doesn't care as long as it stops people from entering the cave. We then hear his little brother call out to him, and when Chris turns around to see him, he says this is a familiar face. He is his biological younger brother and a model student. His name is Thurn von Baron Khazar, and we see him instantly pull out his rapier, thrusting it towards Chris's throat. He stops just shy, but Chris doesn't even flinch. As he looks down into his brother's eyes, internally he's panicking, saying that scared the hell out of him. And he asks his brother, Thurn, what business he has with him, as it doesn't look like he's here to wish him farewell. Thurn says that he's sure he knows that he is a disgrace to the family, but if he sullies the honor of the family again, he will kill him himself. He asks if he understands that this is his final warning. Chris says he sees it must be him who killed Chris in his last life and he's personally met Thurn before during the Age of Destruction. He was a fiend famous for cursed magic. Chris says that it seems like he was cute while he was a kid and he seems to have trained diligently at this point too, but he's nothing more than a brat against him who has seen the worst the Age of Destruction had to offer. As he tells his brother to remove it, Thurn asks him what he just said, and Chris says that he understands, so he should get going. Thurn tells him that he's serious, but Chris completely ignores him, entering anyway, leaving it just awkward as hell outside. Thurn starts yelling, asking Cox what the hell was with that attitude, but on the inside, as Chris is walking forward, he looks around, saying that he can't actually see or hear anything. There's only the faintest sensation remaining around his fingertips, and he bets that is on purpose so that prisoners can feel the objects they bring in or else they might starve to death. An ordinary person would quickly feel mentally drained. In such a place, however, that's irrelevant to him as he's experienced worse during his time as a treasure hunter, and blocking off the five senses is something he's wanted since it will let him see further into himself. Without it, he can't overhaul this broken body. Of course, it also requires a lot of time and luck, but with the medical skills he's suffered to master as the divine doctor and the bone compression art he modified from the circus and finally the magic stones of different properties, it is certainly doable. He honestly thought he wouldn't be able to get a hold of magic stones since they are expensive, but he guesses this is the niceties of an elite clan that heeded his request, even though he's a good-for-nothing yet. In his previous life, he and Evan struggled to obtain them as they had to slave away in the mines. The start will be with the white magic stone, which will purify the toxins. It is a boring but essential stage. It requires him to tediously clean away any toxin buildup across his body with white mana. Even the smallest mistake would cause great pain across his whole body. As he starts doing exactly that, he feels a tingling sensation, which I would assume is like pins and needles when you're sitting on the turd for too long. And he looks up, smiling, saying that this is a cakewalk to him. Sometime later, we see Cox reporting to Chris's father. When his father asks how Chris is doing, Cox says that he entered the cave and he's worried that it'll break him so bad that he won't be able to even call for help. His father wonders if maybe sending him there was a mistake. He had such a promising future as a child, and he wonders how he broke apart so easily if his gift made him too arrogant. Whatever the reason, he'd rather he be fully ruined or died than live such a wretched life. And he's full of conflicting emotions, such as anger and sadness. Even though Chris's words seemed very reasonable, he doesn't think he should have expectations. He's already tricked him too many times. He asks Cox if he saw anything strange when Cox enters. Cox says there was an incident, and his father tells him to report everything in detail. Cox says in truth the young master took magic stones into the cave with him, including a dream stone that makes one hallucinate, and so they don't know the side effects, so they have to immediately open the cave. We see his father's fist shaking out of frustration, but he tells Cox that they can't, and if that's the case, then just leave him to die. It then jumps to a whole month later as he's standing before the punishment cave. Chris's father says he must be a wreck by now. As the door slowly opens, his father is completely taken aback by the shine he is seeing, and Chris says he's been waiting for him to finally show up. He asks his father if he's surprised, and he told him that he promised that he would return as a changed man. His father starts to tear up, saying those are eyes he hasn't shown him since his childhood, and his father says this means he's actually endured it. Chris laughs, asking if that's a compliment, and his father tells him not to get on his high horse from something that's minor, as he doesn't trust him still. Chris says that just means he has to work harder, and he must think that he barely endured the cave, but that's not the case. Chris was so busy training that he had no time to be bored. Firstly, he made himself the optimal body so he could master swordplay, and thanks to the white monostone, each and every cell in his body was basically bursting with life. Furthermore, the Dreamstone was a game changer. Cox asks if he was really going to take that into the punishment chamber, and Chris says that he's glad he was stubborn about it. Thanks to the hallucinations he drastically reduced. At the time it took for his metamorphosis, and on top of that, he created 2 cores. He shows that he's actually a genius as he uses a 1-star spell called Light, and he used his darkness core to hide his light core. The fiends would make a giant fuss if they discovered it, which is why his father doesn't actually think it's that impressive. Things in there would have been great, but of course, that is not all. As he sensed something, one of the stones flew up towards him. When he got a closer look at it, he says that the Dreamstone is just a mess and that someone was hoping to get him high off of it and break him down. But he willingly accepted it and took it head on. He used it as a sacrifice for his leap forward. He tells his father that since he kept his promise, he wants to make a request. His father tells him to speak, and Chris says that he wants to use the Black Swamp Knight's training ground. But his father says it is not good for nothing, like Chris has no place to be there as they are one of the 3 orders of knights supporting the Dark Magic clan. He must know that only the most elite knights may display their skills there. Chris says he's only asking to borrow the training ground and he believes watching the bravery of the Black Swamp Knights would be a good influence on him as he doesn't plan to actually join their order. His father thinks about it for a second before telling him okay, but to heed his warning, and he should not behave disgracefully before the night. Chris says there's also one other thing he wanted to request, which surprises his father. It then jumps to the training ground, and all of the trainees are glancing over, seeing Chris dripped out. They start blatantly bad-mouthing him, and Chris says it must be because they are in the Magic Empire where strength is more important than status. But there's one reason he came here specifically. We learned that his other request was about going to the library, and his father says he needed to get the Deputy Commander Melon's letter of recommendation. It's where a lot of House of Count Khazar's dark magic grimoires are stored. In order to learn dark magic, you must gain access. Chris says he understands and asks why he had a condition when he's still a member of the clan. His father tells him that he must have forgotten how he tried to sell the advanced grimoires on the black market. Chris wonders just what kind of life he lived before he took over it and that he truly is a worthless piece of, but Chris says that the most important priority right now is getting the deputy commander's recognition. He then looks up to spot Thurn and a lot of trainees surrounding him. As Thurn tells him that this isn't a place someone like himself can walk into, Chris says this is pretty troublesome but smiles, saying that he actually thinks this is going to be a perfect opportunity. Thurn then tells him once more that this is his final warning and to go back. He assumes that he doesn't want to throw away the life he's so narrowly saved in the punishment cave. Chris sighs, asking Thurn if he can really stand by those words as father is the one who allowed him to enter the training grounds. Thurn looks surprised by this and we hear somebody else say that she respects the Count's orders but she knows he's not very trustworthy. And we introduce Melon, the deputy commander of the Knights based off her dark energy. She's at least a 4-star and it seems like they intend to scare him off from the start, but he is used to threats like this. He bows, greeting her, and she's just surprised that he withstood her dark energy. He says that seeing as the deputy commander is stepping in, there's no helping it, and he'll prove that he is qualified to use this training ground. She asks how exactly he plans to do that, and he says that he'll fight against one of the fiends here and win. She tells him that his jokes have gone too far, but he says that he's not saying it as a joke. Instead, he would like to request that she refrains from using dark energy since surely she knows due to his debauched lifestyle his capacity for dark energy is far from what it might have been, and he'd prefer an unarmed duel if possible. Melon thinks to herself that even if it's just for a duel, they can't have the heir getting hurt, and this is pretty troublesome. She asks if he really thinks he'll stand a chance in an unarmed duel. Chris says that they'll have to see about it, and he wonders who he should pick as his opponent. He then snaps his fingers and says that they will probably make do. Then starts to get pissed by this, and Melon says that he should find a more suitable opponent as their level is a 2-star. Chris explains that a 2-star is a level no ordinary 13-year-old can reach if you don't possess the raw talent for it. It doesn't matter if you're 13 or 23, you won't even scratch the surface of the level of power. But of course, Chris is also not an ordinary bastard. He says that if he's going to prove himself either way, he should fight someone stronger than him. He thinks fighting them would be for the best and he asks them what they think. Saying surely he's not scared of his brother, they look pissed, saying that he accepts the duel. We then see all of them surrounding them, and they tell them to take the opportunity to destroy Chris, and if he doesn't do it properly, they'll have special training today. Chris asks Melon how they're meant to decide the winner or if they just go until the opponent surrenders. Melon says that this is pretty insolent and he doesn't even know his place, but they should just go until one side is incapacitated. But she really thinks it would be a good idea for them to hit him by taking a leg or two. Chris asks them if he heard the rules, asking what he's going to do since he's going to be in for a serious whooping. They start to get pissed by his taunts, saying that he'll make sure he never runs his mouth. But while he's distracted, Chris smacks the absolute piss out of him, which completely catches them off guard. Chris asks what's the matter, saying that the fight's already begun. They look back up towards him and swing, telling him to shut up. Chris explains that this is practically cheating as a fiend who hasn't even reached 1 star yet. He doesn't stand a chance against someone with dark energy, but in a barehanded duel he fought on countless battlefields in his past life, so it's not really a big deal. As he knees them right in the stomach, he says besides, if they only count the dominion of light powers achieved in the punishment cave, he is at least a 3 star. The other trainees are asking what the hell they are witnessing as they're hunched over holding his stomach. Chris asks if he's crying and if he wants him to blow on his boo-boo, just straight taunting his little brother. Thurn starts asking him what trick he pulled, but of course, Chris is satisfied, saying that seeing him in this state is refreshing. There's nothing like a trick here and that his brother is just a bit too weak. Thurn starts to get pissed, but Chris continues taunting him, saying that he's so quiet he can't hear him. A black aura then starts to envelop his hand, and he dashes forward, telling Chris he's going to kill him. Coming in for a left, Chris dodges the attack, saying he's pretty fast though. This is the spirit he was looking for. As Thurn continues punching towards his face and missing, Chris says this still isn't enough. As he raises his hand, cutting off the aura from the rest of his body, even Thurn realizes that his dark energy is starting to dissipate. Chris hits him with an uppercut, saying that fighting is all about instinct as his eyes go white and he falls to the floor. The rest all look surprised and they start wondering if maybe they let his guard down, saying that maybe he would throw his dark energy because he was worried he would hurt Chris, otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense. But Melon seems to have a better understanding as she's genuinely surprised. Chris says with this, surely he's proven he's qualified, and Melon says yes. Chris thanks her and puts on a calm demeanor, but in reality, he's just hella glad that it worked, saying that now he's going to devour everything, swordsman and magic alike. It then jumps back to the house, and Chris explains that he has reached 1 star in dark magic since he's still not fully accustomed to handling dark energy, and there was a lot of residue left over by Christian. It took longer than he expected. As for wielding the power of light at the same time, he'll need to raise his level further for that to be possible. He rings the little bell only for a woman to slowly appear in his room, asking if he called for her. We are introduced to Mary. His sign maid, he says he can't believe they are using a high-level evil spirit, a banshee, as a maid. And admittedly, though, it was due to Christian's constant troublemaking that they couldn't. He says he'll definitely replace her, lady, and he tells her to just give him some juice as he'll drink it and then leave to train. She asks if she should prepare it with human blood, but he tells her just to make it with strawberries. She tells him that blood juice tastes super good though, and he tells her that he wants strawberries. She continues, and they have a little bit of banter back and forth sometime later. As Chris is heading out somewhere, we hear Cox yelling out to him, asking if he's going to train even though it's so early. And then he worries he is just pushing himself too much. Of course, he's pleased and proud that he's so diligent as he believed in him even when everybody else didn't. Chris says to get a load off this guy and then starts to release some killing intent, saying that he never asked him to believe in him and asks who he is to decide whether he should believe in him in the first place or not. Cox is startled and then apologizes for overstepping his boundaries and then tells him to have a good training session. As Cox leaves, Chris says that there's something really fishy about this dude at the training grounds now. Chris says that everybody here has way more doe-eyed looks than before and that now that their guard is down, he wants to try to win them over little by little. We see some bird dude watching Chris swing his sword, and he walks away towards a tent and goes to inform the deputy commander, Melon, that Chris has shown up again at the training grounds today. Melon just wonders what the hell he is planning and what that duel was about back then. Those movements were definitely impressive. But to think he would dispel his dark energy at that precise moment, she wonders if he saw through the battle. And if that's the case, then he might have the talent to surpass Lord Eskid de Baron, the direct head of the main family. But she decides it's probably not the case, as he's still just a bastard. Also, he has already lost his dark energy through his horrible lifestyle, and it's impossible for him to close the gap now. She hears a lot of noise outside and decides to go check it out, asking what's the deal with it. One of the men tells her that Chris seems to have had a small conflict with a squire. The other trainees wonder what happened, saying that Cannon is a 1-star fiend. and they wonder if maybe Chris also reached 1-star Melon. Looks surprised, but Chris says that he wanted to see the rumored prowess of the Great Black Swamp Knights. But it doesn't seem like they live up to their reputation. Asking if there's anybody else who wants to stand up, she says surely they're not a cowardly order of knights. They start to get frustrated by this, and one man steps forward, introducing himself as Tauren. Chris says that they fall right into his trap, gesturing him to go ahead and attack. And Tauren leaps through the air with his sword overhead. Chris says he never expected them to obediently teach the knight's secret techniques to him. Since that's the case, he has no choice but to steal it this way. As he starts fighting back, Tauren's blade, he starts taking note of how they hold the sword in their footwork, saying that this is the mud swordsmanship he's only heard about in rumors. And he starts to mimic it, saying that maybe it'll work out if he does this. He smacks them straight across the face, causing him to drop his weapon too, but it's a huge surprise to Melon. Chris is just happy that he managed to pull off the technique as Tauren lays their face down, ass up. Chris sits on top of him, and everybody else says they can't believe he was actually strong, saying that his darkness core was ruined, so how did he reach 1 star? Melon realizes that this means she wasn't mistaken back then. Chris says this is disappointing and he had too much faith in the knights, and if their skills are this pathetic, he'd say it's all the deputy commander's fault. They start to wonder if they should stop him because he's crazy for taunting her, and Melon says she understands he's happy about his victory, but he's getting a bit too carried away. He says it's better if she shows him the skills of the Black Swamp Knights. She draws one of the training swords, swings it very forcibly right beside Chris, sending up tons of dust, completely shattering the ground beside him. She says that she only needs 1 second to beat a bastard like himself while releasing a very deep purple aura. Chris asks if she's really planning on fighting against someone like him with her full power and that they should only use dark energy up to the 1-star level and prohibit dark magic as well as using only wooden weapons. She starts to exchange her blades, saying that 1 star is more than enough, and she'll break both of his legs with just half of that. He says if that's the case, he'll put both of his legs on the line, asking what she's willing to risk. She says that anything's fine because he won't be walking away from here today. As she dashes forward, he blocks her attack with a sword, but it is definitely heavy. As we see him starting to get pushed back, she continues swinging all over, but he is managing to keep up by blocking and parrying. Even the other trainees notice this, saying that he's held up for a while considering he's up against Melon, but they say that it must be because her main weapon is the great sword, but we see she's frustrated saying that for some reason her attacks are not reaching him even though he's a weakling through and through. He shouldn't be any match for her. She says that when he fought there in the fight just now with Tauren this happened as well. Chris says that it seems things aren't going her way, which makes her even more pissed as she starts to imbue some aura into her blade, preparing some kind of heavy-ass attack which seems like she might be breaking the rules a little bit. She swings down directly towards where he's standing. Chris ducks to the side, saying that now's his chance. As he runs forward, he hits her with a headbutt straight to the face, which catches her off guard. As she's reeling from the attack, she's surprised to see the blood in her hand. But Chris is glad that his gamble paid off, saying that Melon is a spell sword. So as long as her dark magic is bound, the moment her defense slips, she wouldn't be able to block the opening with physical power alone. So if she was a fiend who focused on the sword, that might not have worked. She looks at the blood still in disbelief, then begins to laugh hella loudly. She says that she never ever would have imagined a headbutt, and it seems like she's looked down on him too much. She'll focus from now on. Chris starts pointing to her neck though, saying that the fight's already over as he scratched her with his nail during the headbutt. And if he had laced his nails with poison, surely she would have known what would have happened to her. She says that she accepts the defeat so to tell her what he desires, but in return, she wants the opportunity to fight him once more. He says if she wants a rematch, he'll have to grant a second request too. She says she'll do anything, and he walks close, saying that if that's the case, once he's right into her face, he asks if she would kneel before him. She's surprised by this and says that surely he understands that is an impossible condition to meet. Her loyalty lies with the main family of the dark magic clan house, Baron. He says, of course, he knows that she is here on an excursion from the main family. However, all of this itself would be resolved if he were to become the young lord of the clan. She's surprised by this and tells him that's utter nonsense, as the 5 young lords whose succession rights have been recognized are all from the direct descendants of the main family. He says there's no rule that says a branch family member can't become a young lord. But about her second duel request, asking if she would like to do it a month from now, he says about the next time they won't limit themselves. She says that he'll have no chance of defeating her. He says that who knows, as few things are truly impossible in this world. She sits there just staring at him, still with blood on her face. He bows, saying that I'll see her in a month, and on that day, he'll make her realize who her loyalty should truly lie with. It then jumps to him handing his letter of recommendation to his father, saying that the fiend's fundamentals are lackluster and they'll need to focus more on their training. We then get a flashback to Melon talking to his father, saying that Chris is a genius. Even with his low star rank, he easily defeated the ones with solid foundations and even herself. He asks if she's serious, and she says yes. It was a rare fight for her, one she could enjoy. His father is still having issues trusting his son, but his work is paying off. Chris asks if there's something on his face, but his father says it's nothing. But as promised, he'll grant him the key to the library. As Chris leaves, he says this was all he wanted, and he obtained the library key and even changed Melon's mind, and that Melon is a fiend from the main family of the Dark Magic clan. During the Age of Destruction, she was active as a 6-star high fiend. So if he wants to take control of the entire Dark Magic clan, he needs to make her one of his people. Of course, he hasn't completely won her over, but 1 month will be enough because he's a genius. And speaking of Count Khazar, the look his father had earlier was definitely one of pride's for his son, but he supposes that makes sense because even fiends have familial attachments, and maybe he'll even turn out to be a better father than the one he had in his previous life. He finally embraces Count Khazar as his father, saying that he won't disappoint him. As he heads into the library, he says that there's blood magic summoning studies, curse studies, and they're all things that are forbidden in the Dominion of Light. He picks out one of the books, and as he moves it backwards, he sees Mary smiling at him, which causes the dude to die of a heart attack on the spot. He asks why the hell she's here, and she laughs, saying why else, as she was once the librarian at this place after all. She causes all the books to start floating around, then says that maybe he came here knowing this and want to monopolize her all to himself. He tells her to shut up, and she says that he's making her heart go crazy with such direct language. They continue their banter a little later. Mary tells Chris that the grimoire he has chosen contains a 4-star dark magic called Binding Seal, and as he is now, he won't comprehend it. Chris closes the book but tells her it's fine because he's a genius. She clearly doesn't think that's the case but pretends by saying that not only is he handsome but he's also a genius, and that's truly super. But he can tell that she's forcing it and tells her to stop doing it. She asks if there's a reason he specifically chose the book, and he says of course, as he needs to catch a rat. A little while later, as he's training with everybody else, he explains that the first potential rat is then no one in this house despises him more for being a good-for-nothing, and the second potential is Cox. Even though he's not a descendant of the clan, he has free access to the punishment cave, and fiends prioritize power over social status. Yet he circles around Chris, sucking up to him. It could also be a third party he is not yet aware of. Whatever the case, they want to see him in ruins, seeing how. They provided him with a dreamstone in the punishment cave. He wonders if maybe he should act like the bastard they want him to be. And then whoever looks happy with him acting out would likely be the culprit. He screams, saying that this training is way too hard. And he leaves, telling them to have fun. And he quits. The other trainees wonder what's wrong with him. And then we see him breaking a plate at dinner. And his father yells at him. But Chris says the servant should have given him proper food to begin with, and he tells her to not just stand there and remake his food. His father seems disappointed, saying that he's a fool for thinking he's matured, and walks out of the room. Chris says he feels bad, but it's for the good of the family, so he hopes he understands. He worked hard to spread rumors that he'd return to being a bastard. He bullied maids while they were cleaning and wasted money like it was water. We see a wine glass being poured, and Chris asks Mary why she won't let him drink the wine. She tells him that he's doing it right now, though he says he can tell it was non-alcoholic. She says that since he's underage, he can't be drinking, and he asks why that matters since he's still good for nothing. She asks if he's decided to be a bastard again, saying that's fine. Even so, because she'll stay forever by his side, he says it's like he told her he's just trying to catch a rat. As we see a spell forming in front of him, she's surprised to see he already met and mastered the binding seal. He does his best to play it off, saying that he told her he's a genius and he modified it to be usable even at a lower star level. He hasn't been just goofing off, he's been working hard at mastering various spells. She wonders if maybe he's truly a genius. Then, she slams the door open. Chris says he needs to act drunk quickly, asking her what he's doing here. Then, she asks if this is the best he can do, as he thought he had truly changed for the better. Chris can tell he's angry, and he decides to cross him off as a suspect. He smiles and tells her that he thinks there's a rat hidden in the house. Then, she asks what he's talking about, and Chris says someone wishes to see his downfall and he intends on dancing to their tune for a while. Then, she asks if he's really saying it's all an act, and Chris says yes, even the wine is fake. As she smells it, she can tell it's not alcoholic. Asking who the rat is, Chris tells him that it's hard to say right now, but they should take the bait anyway. May now, as he throws the wine bottle to the ground, one of the butlers runs in, asking if something's wrong. Chris says this isn't the wine he asked for and to bring him another one. The butler tells him that Cox is currently preoccupied, and Chris says that he guesses he needs to pay him a visit. While still acting drunk, then says he's playing this role too well. And then it jumps to Chris slamming a bottle right in front of Cox's face. Cox asks what brings him here, and Chris pours the bottle over his head, saying this is not the wine he asked for. Wondering if he's looking down on him, Cox says, of course not. Asking if he wants him to go get someone to fetch a proper one immediately, Chris says no, telling Cox to go grab it himself. Cox, clearly frustrated, says that he's in the middle of something. Chris asks if he's going to work like this, saying that he needs to go change anyways. So to get going, Cox then begins to shake visibly and says he'll be back soon and walks out of the room. Chris says that he needs to commend his patience in withstanding such humiliation, but that hostility was very clear. Chris starts looking over all the paperwork Cox has been working on, and he looks surprised but then smiles, saying that this is it. He figured that if Cox was the rat, he would be doing some funny business with the finances, but this isn't enough as he needs a real smoking gun. As Cox comes back, he says he has the wine for him, and Chris thanks him, asking if he's not mad at him. Cox says, of course not, and Chris laughs, saying that he doesn't know if he can tell, but Cox is his favorite. Cox tells him that he's grateful for that, but he has a message for him. As his friends wish to meet him in secret at the usual place, Chris asks what he's talking about. Cox says, although he would prefer him not to associate with them, it is not his place to be judging his friends. Chris says that he guesses he'll meet them then, and Cox tells him to do as he wishes, but he can't help but smile a little bit, saying that things are going better than he expected them to. It then jumps to a whole table of food, and we hear someone telling Chris that they've heard rumors that he's changed recently, but there's still no way that he's the best among them. Chris glances to his side, seeing a young woman saying that getting a girl this young to pour drink sure to cement them is trash. Turd tells him to have a drink, and as Chris raises it to his mouth, he senses something and throws it, hitting Turd straight in the face, which causes him to panic and cough. He asks Chris what he thinks he's doing. Chris says he knows he tainted the alcohol from the way he reacted. It looked like he knew there was something in it. Chris then raises his hand, starting to form a magic spell, and puts it straight to the girl's forehead. As it begins to glow, she slumps over unconscious. His friends ask if he really knows how to use dark magic. Chris says he doesn't think now is the time for them to be surprised by that. He grabs Turd and Pomodore by their heads, slamming them straight into the table, but not just once. He does it over and over. Turd asks why he's doing this, trying to calm him down. Chris says if he still doesn't know what he did wrong after getting hit like that, they can die here and now. As he pulls out a knife, a little later, we see them tied up, and Pomodore has even pissed his pants, begging that he be spared, as they were only ordered to feed him the drug and frame him after they killed the girl. Turd says they were threatened with the drugs they were dealing in secret, so they had no choice. Chris asks who was the one who ordered. Pomodore is hesitant to answer Chris, then moves the knife closer to the man's crotch, asking if he wants to have it cut off. They immediately say it's Cox and they'll do anything to spare their life. Chris asks if they really mean that, and they both say they swear on it. Chris says he can't hear them. They yell it even louder. He says that he'll take their word for that as he begins to cast another magic spell. It starts flying into their foreheads, and he tells them to listen to what he tells them and carry it out properly. They both fall unconscious onto the floor, Pomodoro or even foaming out the mouth a little later. Cox runs into Chris's father's office, saying there's a problem. When he asks what it is, Cox says that the young master has committed murder. It seems he got drunk at night and killed the one who was giving him drinks and threw their body into the river. It seems they won't be able to overlook this one so easily. Asking him what they should do, Chris's father tells Cox to bring him to the Fiend Court as he invokes his immediate trial. Cox smiles, thinking that his plan is going perfectly. At the court, we see Chris standing trial. He tells his father that he's innocent. His father asks if he really plans to lie as there are witnesses. Chris asks how that could be the case when it never happened and that he thinks there's just been a misunderstanding. As the young woman enters the room, he says that this is the dead servant herself, Turd and Patter. Look genuinely surprised by this, she says that Chris took her home after she woke up from falling unconscious and he even gave her money to help her pay her rent, but Pomodoro and Turd are the evil ones and they put drugs in Chris's drink. His father asks what's going on here, and Chris decides that it's time to get this show on the road and begins activating his magic. Turd says that it's correct. They gave false reports, and Pomodoro says it was because they were given orders by the butler Cox to frame the young master. Cox starts panicking, asking why that kind of trash they're spewing, and that this is slander, and that Chris and his friends are trying to frame him. Cox also tells Chris that the joke's gone on for too long, and he's crossed the line, but Chris knew he would react this way, and he says as the victim of this incident, he would like to request one thing. His father asks what it is, and Chris says that he wants him to act as a proxy of his authority to directly question Cox. His father looks a little confused but decides to go along with it, saying that he'll leave it to him to head the defendant's stand, but to know the moment he acts in a way that is inappropriate, his authority shall be revoked immediately. Chris says that he'll finish this quickly, and as the representative of the great ruler of the Magic Empire, the Demon Emperor, and as a member of the Dark Magic clan that governs the eastern region of the Southern Magic Kingdom, and as a representative of Count Khazar, he will now question the defendant. He asks Cox if he swears that he will only answer with the truth to his words. Cox says that he will, and Chris says that as a representative of the Demon Emperor, he asks if he swears to only answer the truth. Cox says that he does, and then a magic spell begins to flow towards his forehead, causing him to hold his head in pain. He wonders what the hell is going on. Others start to recognize it as the binding seal. Asking how Airbrat could use a 4-star dark magic, Chris says that this was modified so it could be used at a lower star rank. However, it has additional conditions, and that is he needs the target to swear twice, and that Cox has now fallen right into his trap. Cox asks him what he just did, and Chris says that he just swore that he will answer with nothing but the truth and asks what the reason he hired his friends to slander his name was for. Cox's head starts to feel hella painful as he lets out a scream, and he says that he received an order and that there was a man who knew of his corruption and threatened him, telling him to ruin the young master. This is why from when he was young, he has been sabotaging him. Chris says that by corruption, he's talking about the embezzlement he's been committing for quite some time, and he's already seen through that as well. He leaps down, asking Cox who gave him the order. Cox says that if he says it, then he'll be in a bad position, but Chris uses the binding spell, telling him to speak now. Cox says that it was Sir Escott and that it was the second son. Cox panics and says that he needs to run away before he gets killed by him, but Chris draws the blade from the nearby guard and cuts Cox's head clean off. Much to his father's surprise, Chris says that by the borrowed authority from the Count, he has punished the sinner as Cox's corpse lies there on the floor. His father asks why this was the decision he came to, and Chris says that had they left Cox alive, the main family would have fabricated evidence and covered up his incident. They cannot be indulgent with him furthermore. He intends to ensure that everyone remembers the truth of it and that he should try to sabotage him. His father looks a bit anxious and then snaps his fingers, telling him to follow him as he opens up some kind of gateway behind him. Chris enters, asking where they are. His father says that this is a secret training ground as there are too many eyes in the courtroom. His father then says about what he said just now, asking if he means to say that Eskid will cause more trouble as a result of the succession conflict because a family's power and authority is directly tied to the successor they support. He tells him his decision was correct, but he feels that he may have acted hastily. However, with things as they stand now, they will have to support the first young lady. The first young lord isn't an option because he is a crazed, bloodthirsty lunatic. Chris says there is also another option, which is for he himself to become the successor. His father says that's nonsense, but Chris says that someone from a branch family can be recognized as a successor if they possess the necessary ability. His father says that's just a role by name alone and it is not enforced. Chris says that he doesn't really know about that because why else would he should try to sabotage him? His father says that he may have been more talented than Eskid in his childhood, but he's been lagging quite far behind him now. Chris says that he'll make quick work of catching up, but to do that, he needs his help. He wants his father to use his authority to recommend that he participate in the Sacred Dark Rite competition. He says that's wrong too. 2 months from now, his father tells him that he'll need to be a 2-star to participate and that he only just gained 1 star. Chris says that he'll make sure to reach it within the next 2 months. Then, so surely this one time his father can help him out. Sometime later, we hear the maids talking about how it seems Chris truly has changed and they have heard that the Count himself has been personally training him. Asks if she has meant the same training that even the senior knight struggled so much with and that he doesn't know how long Chris will last. As we see Chris cutting something cleanly in half, he says that he needs to bind it with mud swordsmanship and then sever it with blackside swordsmanship. Asking his father if he's correct, his father says that he only started teaching him this today, yet he understood it immediately. Chris asks why he has to keep doing it this way because keeping them separate is so weird. His father asks what he means and Chris says that he feels like there's a more efficient method. As another mushroom monster spawns in, Chris runs forward, cutting its legs clean off. His father says that was mud swordsmanship, asking how he did that when it's not meant for slicing. Chris explains that he only used the mud swordsmanship but he wrapped it in the black side sword energy. His father internally is freaking out, saying that's not something a 1-star should be able to do, but plays it cool, saying that's pretty powerful, but using 2 techniques means it's going to be difficult to use curses too. Chris shows that he can still do it anyways and says that it's still pretty easy and it's not really an inconvenience at all. His father then freaks out externally this time too. It jumps to 2 whole weeks later as Chris is lying on the ground. He says that running is so hard and it's not like he can half-ask this since stamina is key to increasing his power stage. We then hear Melon asking if he's already exhausted as the duel isn't far off and she's eagerly waiting for the promised day to arrive, he says. She always has such an intense presence, and that he's doing his best to meet her expectations. She says that she's aware of his growth, but he's still a 1-star, and he'll never get her to kneel before him. He says that he's sure it would happen and he's sure he'll learn something through the duel, so it won't be for nothing if it doesn't. She laughs, saying that he's still full of energy, and she hopes he fights past his limits and entertains her. He says that she is currently an upper 4-star. We learn that in a single stage, there are 3 separate tiers, lower, middle, and upper. As an upper 1-star, he is way below her level. However, he comes from a rich family, which means that he's a wallet warrior. As he enters his room, he asks Mary if she's finished packing his bag for the outing, and she says, of course. And that's since it's their first outing together. She made sure to dress to impress. He says that he never said that she was coming with him, though, and she laughs, saying that he must be worried and she's going to get a heat stroke from this. And that he shouldn't care because it's her pleasure to serve him. He asks how a banshee is meant to get a heat stroke in the first place. He recalls asking his father if he could change to a human attendant, and his father says he cannot since he made a contract with Mary. And that a high-ranked banshee cannot be managed without a contract. And he asks his father if he could even tell him how to avoid the contract then, and he says that it's going to be him sharing a very deep kiss with Mary. Chris says that he can't believe Christian did this in the first place. He tells Mary that she can't come with him as he's headed to a place with lots of people. She looks so sad, saying that she was looking forward to going out. He says that it's just her spiritual energy might injure people. She keeps the puppy dog eyes, saying that she's been stuck in here for decades now, and bro can't believe that she's this sad about it. And folds into zero pressure, saying that he came along, but she just shouldn't show up around others. She says that he truly is the best being, all excited, and he tells her just to follow him. She asks where they are going, and he says that it's somewhere he can make a profit. She reminds him that he already has a lot of money, and he starts dropping his coins on the ground. He tells her to stop doing that. She says if he's not going for money, then maybe he's going for land ownership. He says that's wrong too. She asks what it's for then, and he says it's for something he used to use before. We see them in the carriage saying that he's late. Chris asks what he's doing here. Then, he says that he's here to watch over him in case he begins to behave like a bastard again. Chris tells him not to worry about it as he's merely on his way to go gambling and nothing more. He says they're fiends, so it's a given that they're close to alcohol and gambling. Gambling is something even the Demon Emperor recommends, and there's a reason that's legal. Then, he says that he should follow him there. Then, Chris asks if it's perhaps because he's worried about his big brother. Then, he freaks out, asking why he'd be worried about him. He's just concerned that he'll dishonor the family. Chris says that he was thinking for a little nerd like his brother. It'll probably be too stimulating anyways. Asking if he even knows the rules, then he says that gambling is just card games and that he's going to flatten his nose if he keeps yapping like this. Chris says that sounds so scary and says that he's going to show him that he's a pushover today. They finally make it to where they're going, and it's just a big grand building. Even Mary looks super duper impressed. Then, he says that he didn't know a building could look like this. Mary says that her heart is starting to flutter. Chris tells them to stop acting like country bumpkins and to put this on as he hands a mask to Thurn. He tells Mary that she needs to hide so people can't see her. He also wants to whisper something to her. He starts doing so as she listens, and she says that she'll go do as she's ordered and disappears. Then, he asks where he sent her. Chris says that he shouldn't worry about it and they should go in already. As they enter the area, people start to look over towards them as they walk by their tables. Some of the gamblers say they can't believe people so young would enter the lion's den on their own. Chris says that he wants to make a bet with Thurn on who wins. He'll make more money in an hour, and if he wins, he'll call him older brother for a month. Then he asks if he's serious, and Chris says yes, but if he loses, he'll have to call him the Honorable King Emperor Majesty brother. Then he can't believe he said that with a straight face, and Chris says that there's no need to do it if he's scared and offers him some money. Then instantly snatches it, saying that there's no way he'd be scared about this and that he's going to be going first and show him how easy this is. Sometime later at a table, a man is saying that it's Chris's victory and for being young, he plays quite well. He's sure that he's going to earn a lot. Chris says that when you're first starting out, they let you win a reasonable amount by instigating the overconfident player. They aim for the moment their prey bet's too big, and he knows exactly how these common works. Of course, we know there isn't so familiar, so he falls for it. Chris says that he's already caught in their trap and he tells him that he should just go back home and sleep. Then he says that he's definitely losing money too, and Chris tells him that he's only lost 500. Then he says that he only lost about 1,000, and everybody starts laughing at the completely justified crash out. Chris says that it looks like everybody here has marked them as a loser, and he's sure conmen will try reeling him in soon enough. Then he asks if he's going to continue. Then he says he will and throws the money out of Chris's hands. Chris says that he's the one who tried to stop him, but he wants him to lose tons and become the perfect bait as that's the plan to begin with sometime later. As then sitting at his table looking at his cards, we see people cheating as they actively see what's in his hand, and Chris spots them. They tell him saying that this is perfect. Mary then appears behind Chris saying that she found the people he mentioned. He says that she did a good job while he's freaking out. He's low-key rising up. Mary a little later they arrive and Mary says this is the place. Chris tells her to open the door, and she does so. As they enter the room, the people start freaking out, asking who he is. Chris takes off his mask, saying surely everyone knows of him. They ask what business he has here, and he tells them to call their master over. A man then starts being a kiss-ass, asking Chris if he really came to visit. And we are introduced to Grant, the master of the Glee Merchant Guild. And while he may be known for his talent as a merchant, there's just a little bit more to him as he's actually the owner of the casino too. Chris says that he wants to have a conversation in private, and Grant asks what it could be about. Chris says that he conned his younger brother, whom he cares deeply about, and yet dares ask him what he's here for. Grant says there's no way asking if that sucker in the tiger mask is his brother. Chris says he's corrected as Count Khazar. Then Grant says that he assures him that all he does is run the casino, and the others do have no relation to him. Mary then gives him some absolute nightmare fuel. She immediately apologizes, saying that had he known he was the son of the Count, he never would have done it. And a please show mercy. Chris says surely these aren't empty words. Grant says of course not. He shall compensate him, asking how much he wants. Chris says he wants 1,000,000 rupees, which surprises Grant because there's no way they have that much money on hand to do it. Chris says that 200,000 would be enough, and Grant asks if that's really all it'll take. Chris says there's something else he'll also need to give him too, and Grant asks what it is. A little later, we see him looking at brand new equipment, and Mary says that she didn't think he would use the 200,000 rupees to purchase gear, and that truly is a super scheme. Mary says that the sword that he got is a bit strange, and we learn that it's called Grenade, and she knows that's the holy sword that a past hero obtained by offering up his soul. And she heard that many fiends want it because it's something that the hero used after his fall, but now it's all rusty. Chris tells her that it's okay because it's part of the plan and hands her a necklace, telling her to take it. He saw her staring at it before and to just treat it as a gift. She looks so surprised, and he says that it seemed like she would never be able to put her regrets to rest if she didn't get it, so he's giving it to her so that she can move and find peace quickly, telling her not to misunderstand. She says, before she died and even after she did, this was her first time receiving a gift, and she thanks him. Before he gets caught up in the feels, he tells her they should hurry home. She gives him such an absolutely warm smile that she says that she shall put her whole heart into it as thanks, and from now on she shall make it for him, and that from now on she shall make him blood juice that's even tastier than before. As they walk home, he says that he doesn't want to drink something like that, and they continue bantering. She says that surely he knew that the strawberry juice he's been drinking all this time was blood, and he tells her to stop joking. Chris then says to wait a moment because he feels like he's forgetting something. Of course, he's talking about the ring that he left at the casino. It then jumps to the next day as we hear them yelling out to Chris. Chris wakes up wondering what's going on, and then asks why he abandoned him. Chris thought he forgot something the other day, and then tells him that he was nearly sold off as a debt slave because of him and that he was lucky someone recognized him. Chris apologizes but says that it was probably Grant who helped him out, though he's addressing him all wrong since he lost the bet. He needs to keep his end of the promise and to go ahead and say the words. Thurn looks mortified and squeezes the hell out of the pillow but slowly starts to say the word esteemed over and over. Chris says that he doesn't know what he's trying to say, and then yells it while ripping the pillow open, calling him the esteemed King Emperor Majesty, brother. Chris says this is good and that he should be sure to respect him and strive to do well for himself as well. Thursday says that he'll have his revenge one day and to prepare himself, and Chris says that he can't believe such an adorable kid will grow up to kill his older brother, and it's probably all because of him. He's talking about Eskid, the son of Langam, the acting clan head of the Dark Magic clan and the rank 1 young lord. He does not feel much about him since he's not the real Christian, but if he wants to become the young lord, he can't avoid a confrontation with him and that he'll repay this grudge personally. But if he wants to do that, he needs to get Melon on his side, and he looks down at the holy sword that he has as he's kneeling down with it. On the floor, he explains that at one point, countless fiends attempted to wield it, and the reason this holy sword is treated as just an antique is that no one has been able to do so. Then he's sure that it might react differently to him. As he grabs onto his chains, it starts to release a very holy energy that zaps his hand away. Chris looks down at his hand, saying that this is to be expected since it's an artifact created to use the holy power of light. But in the end, it's still just a weapon, and he'll be able to use it if he can just analyze the mechanism that's making it reject the dark energy. As he starts hammering away at it over and over, it begins zapping the hammer with every strike, slowly shattering it upon contact. After a bit, Chris asks Grenade if it hurts and pulls out the hammer after hammer, telling it to submit already because he's going to hit it all night. I feel bad for the poor sword. A few days later, at the secret training grounds, we see his father asking if he's done his preparations. Chris says he has, and we see a woman in front of him. He asks who she is, but he says that he thinks he's seen her somewhere before. He then realizes who it is and greets the KN commander of the Black Shadow Knights. She says it's been a while, and we learn that this is his aunt, named Marion. She is the daughter of the Elder Clan head, the master of the Dark Magic Clan, and the older sister of his father and Count Langam. She protects the Elder Clan head and is in charge of secret missions and surveillance within the clan. She is the elite among the elites, and he wonders why she's here in the first place. His father says that his sister came to visit for matters concerning Cox, and she laughs, saying that he committed quite a cheeky act. Chris says that maybe the Elder Clan head is planning on protecting Eskid, and that might be a bit of a problem. He says, it seems the Elder Clan head has plenty of free time tending to such trivial matters. She says he's pretty bold, but the clan head has no interest in the squabbling of children and rather he seems to be interested in Chris. Chris is surprised by this and says that this might be an opportunity to win his favor. Marin says that she wonders if this is bravery or idiocy as he hasn't even reached 2 stars yet. He is challenging Melon and that he should call off the duel. He thanks her for worrying about him but says that he has his own plans. As he starts to show the sword, she recognizes it, asking if that's perhaps Grenade. Saying that he must have gone insane, but she knew he was a troublemaker, just not to this extent. We finally learned that his father's first name is Raiden, and she says that he went on and on about how Chris has changed for the better. Raiden says that it's true, and she asks if he doesn't realize that he's trying to use a holy sword in a duel. Chris asks if he's not allowed to use it and that he just has to win no matter the method or trick he needs to use. She warns him that even the Elder Clan had failed to tame Grenade as that holy sword's power will burn him to ashes. Chris asks if that's the case, as he starts to take the sheath off of it. She yells, telling him that it's dangerous as it has a little bit of a golden light to it. Of course, nothing happens, and she kind of just stares at him. She asks if it's a replica, and he tosses it at her, telling her to check it herself. As she catches it, it starts zapping the hell out of her hand, so she throws it to the ground. She asks how he's doing this, and he says that it's a trade secret that he doesn't want to tell her, but she can be sure of one thing: the only reason why he can wield the sword that even the Elder Clan had failed to tame is because he is a genius. His father can't help but feel proud as hell, and we hear Melon laughing, saying that he's always so fun and entertaining, and for him to have tamed a holy sword is cool, but it's not like that's going to matter, as today will be his last day in this world. Chris begins to stare at her. It then jumps to the start of the duel. As Melon's charging forward, swinging down, Chris blocks it. He says it's just as he thought. Without any restrictions, her power and speed are incomparable to before. He won't be able to narrow this gap at all. But as she starts flying in, he blocks her attack once more. We see the holy sword starting to dissipate the aura on her blade. His father and aunt are surprised that it's opposing the dark energy. Raiden says that it seems like he surpassed her when she was younger too. Marin says that's not the end of it, pointing out that he is wielding the holy sword. As they see his hand still has the purple aura to it, but it looks like it's clashing with the sword's aura, Chris strikes back, causing Melon to block it. Raiden says that the power is incredible, but it looks like his dark energy is fluctuating a bit. Marin says that's not what's going on. He's controlling his dark energy for a single moment to avoid the rejection and response of the holy sword. Melon distances herself. Chris asks if the battle is to her liking. She says that she's been having this thought for a while, but asks if he's perhaps predicting her movements. He says that he does happen to be pretty observant, and each sword technique has a preceding position she needs to raise her arms before she can swing down. And to do that, she needs to move the muscles in her shoulders and upper body. This is something a novice and an expert share in common. She sighs, asking him how he's going to predict this. Then, as we see a green aura start to be released from her hand, it starts to wrap around Chris. She says that surely he hasn't forgotten that the Black Swamp Knights are spell swords. A giant surge of holy energy resonates from him. He says that almost could have been a problem. She asks if he had a cleansing artifact. Chris starts thanking his father, saying he survived thanks to him. But he says that should be in the secret vault. He looks confused. Chris says he can't help but be a little bit of a klepto sometimes, but having good equipment is a skill itself in a real battle anyways. He reaches into his pocket and throws something towards Melon as it explodes. She does her best to dodge whatever it is, and Chris says there's no use even if she does, as he throws another one directly towards her. This one explodes. He says that he got that artifact using the money he took from GLE, and it's pretty effective. He tells her that he knows she's alive and to come out already, as she starts thrusting her blade directly towards him. Chris redirects his blade, matching her, hitting the tip of the blade, causing it to crack until it shatters into pieces. Raiden says that he wondered why he threw that corrosion marble into the air and that it's just like he thought. His son truly is a genius. Melon then starts walking forward, laughing, and then even begins to smile, saying that this is way too fun. Asking what he's going to use next, Marin says that Melon has lost her mind and they need to stop her. Chris starts to lean backwards and then raises his hand, deflecting her attack with the most minimal of movements. He then immediately pivots his foot, getting behind her, putting the blade to her throat. And then it surprises her, and he says that it looks like it's his victory. Asking if she was satisfied with this, it even cuts her cheek a little bit. His father still just looks super proud. "I love this guy, Melon." Then laughs, saying if he's genuinely asking, that she can't even calm down anymore. He then says that he wants an answer to his previous request as soon as possible. Although it was his victory, he will show respect, etc., if she wishes to refuse, as loyalty isn't something that can be obtained by force. She asks if she continues to stand by his side if he'll fight her like this in the future. He grabs her hand, saying that he'll fight her as much as she wants it. Then jumps to later, as Marin is looking out at the sunset. She says that him wielding dark energy like that is something special. As we see a man throwing the holy sword onto the ground, says he refuses. Marin asks if it's impossible for him to hold it as well, and he says that he can wield it momentarily, but as she knows, the waves of dark energy change continuously, meaning you need to constantly change the waves into one that the sword cannot detect. But there's no one who can do that in a real fight. It might only be possible for a demon of Gahong or the demonic dragon, and if not them, then perhaps a crazy bastard who can control dark energy as easily as they breathe. She recalls Chris smiling widely, asking if it was perhaps enough to earn her praise, and she does look a bit happy about it, saying that maybe her father's long desire can be fulfilled. It jumps to the kitchen, and we see a very evil-looking dude chopping stuff up as he cuts a strawberry in half and places it atop cheesecake. Chris says that he can't believe he's been making the strawberry cakes, and Mary says that despite his appearance, his skills are top-notch. The orc then asks Chris what brings him to the kitchen, and Chris says to make some cookies. Mary asks why he's making cookies, and Chris says to give them to someone. She asks if it's for a woman other than her, and he says that it's not what she thinks but it is technically for a woman. The orc says he can do it for him, but Chris says it's fine because baking heartfelt snacks with his own hands is what matters. He may not look like it, but before he can finish his sentence, he gets hit on the cheek with a red substance as orcs are going absolutely crazy mashing up what used to be strawberries into jam. Chris asks Mary if she's sure they aren't adding blood to the strawberry juice, and she laughs. Then later that evening, Chris calls out to Marin, who's about to get atop of horse, and she asks what's the matter. He says that he heard she was leaving and came to say goodbye. She says that she appreciates it and he must be tired from the duel yesterday. He says not at all, but he also has a little gift for her. She sees all the cookies and begins to blush, saying that he didn't have to prepare a gift. He says he's happy to see her again and couldn't help but prepare something right then. He remembers yesterday when Chris was asking him if there's any particular food that Marin enjoys, and he says that he sure doesn't know how to win someone over. Chris tells her to try a bite because he baked them himself. She asks if he really made these and starts munching away and realizes that this turd is actually gas. She tells him it's very tasty, and he says that he's glad she likes them. She says that she must give him something in return for this fine gift, asking if there's anything he wishes for. He says that he wants her to become his true aunt from now on. She says since they're already related by blood, he's sure there's a deeper meaning behind his words. She asks if he just wants to have her support in the upcoming succession conflict. She sighs but says unfortunately she cannot grant him that request as he may know adults from the main faction family must be impartial towards the candidates as that is the rule. He says he was merely making a genuine request as he wishes to become closer with his aunt. She asks if he really has no other intentions, and he says of course. If she cherishes him and secretly offers to help, there's no way he'd be able to refuse it. She laughs, starting to eat cookies, saying that she does not dislike his honesty. But since her nephew bakes such delicious cookies and gifts them to her, she can't help but cherish him. He thanks her, and she asks if she can have more cookies next time. Raiden sits there tearing up since he finds it so wholesome. Chris says that if she makes him sad, he might soar and be unable to recreate this taste. Saying surely she understands what he means, she sighs and looks happy and asks what he thinks about joining the Black Shadow Knights. He goes to explain it and says something to her, but she cuts him off. She says that he was exceptional in the duel against Melon and he may even be a greater prodigy than the Elder Clan head. However, his rivals won't be easy opponents, and she's worried that he may wither away before his talent has a chance to bloom. He says if he fails to climb up and over the mountains in this way, he wouldn't mind dying. She looks surprised by this, and he says that he appreciates her concern, but he does not think that he will lose again. She's amused by his confidence and says that for some reason, if it's this child, she'll believe him. She says that she cannot stop him from walking down this path, however, she wants to offer him a piece of advice. She tells him to be wary of the first young lady. Raiden asks why he should be wary of Juliana, not aside from the fact that she is the most gentle of the 5 young lords. Marin says that he will soon come to understand why, and Chris thanks her, saying that he'll keep it in mind. She smiles, saying that she'll see him next time, and rides off. It jumps to Chris laying down in bed thinking about something. He says that both his father and an aunt are powerful as they've reached 6-star after a lull, but he still didn't hear much about them during the Great War, and he wonders just how many powerful combatants there are in the Magic Empire. As there must be enough to overwhelm the Dominion of Light at the very least, but he doesn't want to repeat the past this time around. So, he must get stronger faster. We get a whole 1-month time skip, and Chris asks his father if he called for him. His father says yes, as there's something he meant to tell him, but then is surprised by something, asking Chris if he's actually reached 2 stars already. His father says to achieve such a growth in only a month is crazy. Chris says that he doesn't know why he's surprised, as he promised him and asks what. He wanted to talk about calling him here alone at this hour. His father says that he got word from the main family. He submitted both him and Nen as candidates for the Sacred Dark Rite, but they only approved then. He sighs, saying that the reason being was that of his frivolous spending, womanizing, thievery, and even drunk and destructive property. He can't refute it because it's all true, bro getting punished, but his father says that he can't believe they're looking down on his son. Chris asks if Count Langam made this decision. His father says no, the Count didn't have much to say after misdeed. However, it was Lai and de Baron. He's a direct descendant from the main family and the star of the upcoming Sacred Dark Rite. The Sacred Dark Rite itself is a ritual where candidates take in pure darkness from the negative dimension. Since the amount is limited, candidates participate in a quasi-deathmatch to decide on hierarchy. Candidates who rank higher end up taking more darkness for themselves. And it ends up playing a tremendous role in being selected as the Young Lord, a successor to Clan C. If Lan is victorious and monopolizes darkness, then becoming the 6th Young Lord, achieving his goal, will be much harder. If that does happen, his father says that he'll talk to them again. And if all else fails, he'll even request help from Marin. Chris says that's not necessary as he'll figure things out himself. His father says that he knows he's talented and that he has changed, but he can leave the matters to the adults, bro really is just trying to be a good dad. Even Chris can see it and says that he appreciates his feelings, but he tells him that he has his own methods. Bro is cooking up something nefarious. He asks if any children of Count Taraman's house will be participating. His father says yes and that his 3rd son will be there. And that scoundrel sided with Lone, saying that he had no right to participate in the Dark Rite and he's merely a trickster who can only control demon beasts. Chris says he's surprisingly a nice father and he tells him to calm down as he simply needs to prove himself to them and that the Traman should be hosting a black pill hunt soon and he'll participate as a herder. It then jumps to what I assume is the main estate of the house. We hear Marion saying that she has personally checked on Christian as per the clan head's orders. He asks how he was and she says that he was incomparable to the others. The elder says that he finds that hard to believe, and the child he remembers was a brat who thought himself to be a genius when he was nothing but a false prodigy. She says that he's clearly different from before, and the elder says in that case he asks if she believes that the child could fulfill his long-desired wish. She explains that this wish is why her father has lived on, even refusing death through heaven-defying magic. She tells him that she cannot say, but he might be the closest to what he desires. He laughs, saying that's pretty interesting and he shall keep his eyes on him, and his participation in the upcoming sacred dark rite is unlikely. Asking if that's correct, she says that's the common consensus within the clan. Asking if he will intervene, he says that he cannot step in over such a trivial matter. Asking how someone could call themselves a fierce beast without being able to overcome such a small trial, she says that he may be a fierce beast, but he's still just a child, and she believes he should be given an opportunity to receive darkness and awaken his potential. He calls out to her in a very stern voice while glaring at her, and she realizes that she's overstepping her boundaries. He says that he's always been such a man and he's harsh to those he holds expectations for. He says that since she's willing to go so far for him, she must have taken a liking to him. He then summons someone called Blood Drinker. As he appears in the room, this is the head butler of the dark magic clan named Simon. Asking if he has been called for, he says he already knows. Simon heard it all, and Simon says that he's dead. It just needs to observe the little bastard this time around. The elder says that's correct and that he wants to know everything he does leading up to the sacred dark ritual. Simon says that he understands, but he has one question, asking if he can pull a small prank during his monitoring. Marin looks surprised by this, and the elder glares at him, reminding him not to go overboard. Simon then begins laughing evilly and says that as he wishes while leaving. Marion says that she hopes that Chris makes it through safely. It then jumps to a carriage riding through a village, and Chris says he quickly managed to reach 2 stars thanks to his talent. But despite all the training, his stamina and dark energy reserves are nowhere near sufficient, and he can't become a 3-star as he is now. He needs a black pill to accumulate a lot of dark energy in a short period of time. For the Tans, the host of the Black Pill Hunt, to coincidentally start beef with him is a pretty good stroke of luck. The problem is that catching the demon beast off doesn't automatically guarantee a black pill. As the carriage comes to a stop, he explains that there is a special condition that needs to be fulfilled. We then see Lardos running up to the carriage, asking Chris what brings him here. Chris asks how he's been, saying surely he hasn't come empty-handed. He says of course not, and that he would never greet the young master without a gift. Chris slaps it out of his hands, causing it to fall to the floor, and Lardos looks confused. Chris says that he doesn't seem to know his place, and he heard that he's partaking in all sorts of illegal activities. After all, we even get a funny image of him bullying him. Chris says that he'll let it slide this once, so he should cut any activities that cross the line. Lardos agrees, and Chris says there's something that he needs to procure an ash pill for him, asking if he can do that. Lardos says that those recently surged in price, and Chris says that he sees how it is and asks Mary if she's ready. She begins laughing, and holy turd, put it away, where's cute Mary at? I feel sorry for Lardos. He immediately gets on his hands and knees, saying he'll get it immediately, and Chris says it's so nice and easy when he cooperates. And then says that while he's at it, he wants a dagger sharp enough to cut armor. Lardos looks confused, and Chris leaves. Poor guy, but he is not a good person, don't forget that. As they're heading back, Mary asks if it's time to go home, and Chris says that there's still one more place he needs to visit. He sees a potion store, telling the coachman to stop here, and he enters. He starts looking around the shop, saying everything that he'll take, and Mary asks what he's doing all this for. Chris says that he has a use for it, but she asks what use he has for an aphrodisiac. And she starts getting the wrong idea, they're kind of staring at him, and Chris starts to sweat nervously. Then she starts to think that maybe it's time for the both of them, but he tells her it isn't, and she says that she understands. He yells, saying that he said it isn't and that it's not for him, it's for someone else to use. She slyly locks in on the JoJo pose, asking if it could be for the Count. Chris nods his head, and the shopkeep also understands because Raiden's age is getting ahead of him. Chris tells the shopkeep that for the Count's honor, he must absolutely keep this a secret, and he says that he'll be careful. It then jumps to a little bit later, and we see Thurn greeting Chris. Chris says to repeat his title and starts talking to him, and he hits the whole thing. He says that he heard the black pill hunt is dangerous, so he should avoid getting hurt. Chris asks if he's worrying about him, and he says that he's just worried they won't have a proper duel. And of course, bro just hella embarrassed. The Count says that he should make sure to flatten those House Tyramin bastards' noses. Chris says of course, and he shall bring back some refreshing news. Their father starts asking Thurn what the King Emperor thing from before meant, and Thurn gets way too embarrassed, saying that he doesn't need to know. It then jumps to the house of Count Tyramin, and we see a little goblin saying that he's only going to say this once more and that Chris is not allowed entrance into the Count's mansion. The boys start getting his back, saying that they can't believe he's acting this way, asking if he even knows who this person is. The goblin says that the young master also has orders and he has no favor to repay a good-for-nothing bastard. Chris asks if he's trying to tell him that he needs to find his own accommodations. The goblin says that is the case and says so nervously. One of the boys says he's immediately going to go cut that bastard's head off, but Chris gets him to stop, asking about the payment for the accommodations. Then the goblin gets scared, saying that he can bill it to Count Tyramin. Chris asks if that's really the case as we see a fancy-ass courtyard, a fancy-ass house. Bro actually gone out of his way to rent a mansion. The workers ask how much this cost, debating that it's probably at least 100,000 rupees. Chris says it's not often they can spend someone else's money as much as they want and that he'll give them 1 hour to organize their luggage and they can go out to drink after there's some movement in one of the luggage. Chris says that he just heard something, only for Mary to pop out saying that this mansion is just super and that it looks perfect to serve him. Chris asks why the hell she's here, and she says that she hid inside his luggage because she promised to be his maid forever. She says that seeing how shy he's acting is adorable and based off his expression, he surely missed her. Someone then yells, calling out to him asking what the hell is up with this bill. We are introduced to Yahello, the third son of Count Tyramin. Chris says that since the protagonist of the Black Pill Hunt told him to go find his own place to sleep, he did. Asking what's wrong, he says that since this honored one can't stay in a mere hotel, he just purchased a passable mansion. It can't be that he's squabbling like this because of mere money. Considering he's a pathetic person who doesn't know how to treat guests, he thought it was a pretty cheap price for teaching him manners. A lawyer starts to get pissed and squeezes the paper while releasing some kind of spell that summons a panther. He asks Chris if he wants to die. Chris says that this must be the Count's subjugation arts. Unlike the Alliance's taming subjugation arts, these are dark magic that binds and controls the demon beast through fear. There are formulas secretly mixed and that paralyze the demon beast's reasoning and cause delusions of fear and excitement. However, it's a bit more complex than he thought, so it'll be a stretch to learn it all in a short period of time. But for now, he wants to beat the living hell out of it. Chris then tells Mary that in order to eliminate that scary kitty, he definitely thinks he'll need a weapon. She laughs, opening up their little storage. He pulls it out, telling Alrose to go ahead and come at him. Alrose yells, saying that he doesn't want him to order around. As the beast starts running directly toward him, it opens its mouth. Leaping, Chris raises his stick, blocking the attack. As it starts to bite into it, it actually shatters it, breaking it, sending Chris backwards onto the floor. Chris says that's not too bad, but a 2v1 is practically cheating, and this won't do. If he wins, he'll have to participate as a guard instead of a header, and it needs to be at least this much to make it meet. Asking Alrose what he thinks, Alrose calls him a cocky son of a bird while jumping on the leopard, saying that he's going to make him kneel for this. As it comes in for the second attack, Aloys looks confident as it pounces on the ground, but the leopard looks underneath its hands, wondering where Chris is. Even Alo does as Chris comes up behind, smacking him once and then immediately 3 more times with the stick. Chris asks if it hurts, saying that he better not start crying. Alrose creates some distance, and Chris says that he won't go easy on him, even if he does. Alrose tells him to shut the hell up. Chris starts to release some hella killing intent toward Alrose and the leopard. The leopard immediately feels an intense fear and starts to panic and hides and runs away, leaving Alrose standing there asking what the hell he did to his Choco. Chris says that he only used a mere 2-star illusion spell and it seems that it was too much for his subjugation arts to overcome. Alrose starts to prepare another spell, telling him to shut up once more as one mean asshole-looking horse starts to summon up from under the ground. Chris asks if he understands what kind of person he is. Alrose is confused and Chris eats his weapon forward hell fast, hitting Alrose straight in the forehead, knocking him to the floor as his eyes go white. Chris says that he doesn't bother waiting for transformations or casting and the poor horse is just stuck trying to get out of the ground. It then jumps to Chris, gambling as they're asking if he's certain he should be doing this. Chris says there's plenty of time left and he should rest when he can. They tell him he's not exactly resting right now though. Chris asks what's wrong with a good-for-nothing guy like himself doing what he should be doing. Asking Mary if she agrees, she says of course and just seems so happy and says that as long as he doesn't drink alcohol, poor Chris wants actual alcohol, but she won't give him any. But it's not like he can say no. The goblin from earlier asks why Yahello wants them to keep an eye on such a bastard. Chris says they should come join him at the table. He's sure their master won't wake up until tomorrow since he beat him to a pulp and he'll keep it a secret. Asking what they think about it, they tell him to mind his own business and he tells them to have fun watching them as they continue going all the way until nightfall. We see the goblin and the hyena dude staring down at Chris, saying that he's sure he's a good-for-nothing and it's pointless to keep watching him for any longer. As they start to leave, he opens his eyes and notices they're gone. Now, then sits up. He then looks out the window and says it's late and he should get moving. He marries the goat. He tells her that he needs to go somewhere real quick, telling her not to follow. She starts to seem suspicious, saying that she knows there's an aphrodisiac in his pouch and that she knew it wasn't for the count but for him to use. She says that she's already sad being unable to attend him in bed, but she will cheer for his nighttime activities. He says that she sure loves running her mouth at the Kitten Mountains. Chris says that this is the secret land of the Count, and the energy of demon beasts is very dense here, just as his reputation suggests, and he should be reaching the hunting ground soon. He finds it, saying there it is, but he only sees 2 guards. Saying this is pretty relaxed, and it's a good thing he learned the invisibility spell from Mary. She asks what he plans to do with invisibility magic, and he asks why she's always making things harf. As Chris starts to walk past them with complete ease, making his way deeper and deeper into the hunting grounds, he spots an altar. Saying that this is where they will hold the finale of the Black Pill hunt, and it's just as eerie as they say. We see that fox-like girl from before, saying that the way to obtain a black pill is to make a kage offer its life to him. In other words, he must make it so terrified that it would rather die instead. Just as opposites are connected, intense fear and radiant joy are on the same spectrum in that short moment, the useless ash pill is reborn as the black pill. That's why the house of Count Tyramen, which specializes in dominating demon beasts through fear, is the one leading the black pill hunt. Chris says that he sees, and we learn that that girl's name is Lena, and he says that just as she mentioned before, he was planning to steal their ultimate technique and let the cage off run wild after giving it the aphrodisiac mixed with various stuff and monopolize the black pill for himself. But there is not enough time to steal their technique and learn it, so he has to go and do a different method. He starts to sense some kind of magic spell and turns, wondering if he was spotted, only to tell where it came from, and he realizes that he has to go check it out. As he makes his way deeper into the forest, he comes across a cave and puts on his hood before he enters. And as he does, an ominous red aura brushes past him, and he says that it has such intense malice, and he can tell at a glance that this is a top-ranked barrier of dark magic. He wonders if this is what he thinks it is, and that it might be a crevice of Gehenna, the world of demons, and he can't believe there was such a crevice linking it with the human world right here. Then he wonders what would happen if he lured the cage off over here, and he even has something to do it with. And he smiles, saying that he will wait for the hunt. As we see a bat watching him from the ceiling, Chris takes leave. It spreads its wings and reveals itself to be Simon, who says that he didn't expect the little bastard to be so interesting. Not only did he pummel A, he even made his observers let their guard down by acting like a fool. He secretly entered a forbidden area, scheming something, and it makes him want to play an even more terrible prank on him. As he walks towards the gate to Gehenna, he puts his hand inside, causing his hand to bleed, pouring out onto the ground. Something then begins to absorb his blood, and it asks him for what he wishes. Simon is about to summon a demon. The next day, as it's now time for the hunt, somebody stabs a flag into the ground, and it's none other than Alrose and his group. Chris is there as well, saying surely he thinks he's acting too cool for someone that just got his ass whooped. Alros tells him to shut up, saying that he's the poser, asking why he brought the holy sword when he can't even use it. Chris tells him that it's more effective than a club, asking if he wants a taste. Alros changes the conversation, telling everybody to go lure the monster off to the altar, and those assigned to guard duty will follow him and they'll stand right by it. Simon is watching this as well, and Chris clearly spots him. Alros tells Chris to go ahead and answer, and Chris says, as he wishes. Now we are at the altar. One of the other guards asks that Chris go hold up somewhere else, as he's only getting in the way of the hunt. Chris says that's fine with him if he gets to laze about, but not to come crying to him later for help with the cleanup when they inevitably die. The bit clearly pisses the dude off, but Alros tells him not to tire himself out before the hunt has even begun, and that the good-for-nothing can go guard the flag. Chris says this good-for-nothing will protect the flag to his utmost. Chris starts to sit down by a tree, saying that he wants to see them do their best, as they're just going to be playing straight into his trap. He made sure to pack the dagger and ash pill with him as well. While they start looking around for the sound, Chris can tell that it's coming, and we are finally introduced to the Cage-Off, which is a rank 4 magic demon beast. He wonders why the hell it looks so derpy, since it looks oddly cute. The rest ask Alros if he's ready, telling him it's time. His animal buddy also tells him to begin the subjugation art. Alros stretches out his hand, starting to cast it, as the Cage-Off continues hitting the ground with its beak. The others are casting some kind of slowing spell on it, as Alros slowly approaches it with the subjugation arts. Something inside of the Cage-Off's eyes changes, causing it to let out a screech. It turns its face towards Alros. He looks scared and raises his hand only to get the absolute piss smacked out of him, causing him to fall into the floor. Everybody else also can see the poison coming from its little feather tentacle things, and they start to do a defensive formation around Alloy. But Chris says that it will not work and it's out of control because of the aphrodisiac he gave it. Alros says that it's a good thing they consumed the antidote ahead of time, but it's still dangerous if this drags on and that everybody should do their best to stop it the best they can. They start sending themselves flying through the air, heading straight towards Alros once more. They all scream out for him. Alros, out of fear, looks up, closing his eyes only to be surprised by something. Chris is standing before him with the holy sword, blocking the attack, saying that his house sure is pathetic and he can't believe they're forcing the busy flagbearer to step in. He'll be nice and bail him out if he promises to call him Big Bro. Alros calls him a crazy ass, asking why he should. Chris asks if he really doesn't want to. It's not like he is all the time in the world. Everybody else begins coughing due to the poison, and Alros grits his teeth, realizing he's right and tells him to help, calling him a bastard. Chris says that he better keep his promise, and he smacks the side of the Kage off the head. He then begins to use his own version of the subjugation arts, stretching around the side of the Kage, off restraining it. Alros is surprised, asking how he's using this. Chris asks if he really thought his family were the only ones who could use it, as long as it's not a secret technique, something like the intermediate subjugation art. This is nothing, as he rotates his body, grabbing onto the chains that have been created from the art. He then starts to pull back on them, kind of like reins, and jumps on the back of the carriage. It starts screeching and running, and Alros yells, telling him to wait because over there is a crevice. As he tries, warning him, Chris smiles, as he already knew this from last 18 night, he heads straight towards it. The carriage-off starts going crazy, and he says this is surely the first time it's seen the malice of Gehenna and tells the carriage-off to be terrified as its eyes, which were a very bright red, shift to a very bright yellow color instead. Chris said, now, as he tightens the grip on his dagger, stabbing the carriage off, killing it on the spot, the rest run in, asking him if he's okay, warning him that this cave is extremely dangerous, so they need to hurry up and get out. Chris tells them not to be such wimps and asks them what they should do if it turned out to be an ash pill and not a black pill. Alros starts to feel frustrated, and his boy asks Chris what the hell he's going to do about this because if he didn't intervene, but Alros tells him that this is enough and to leave it. He then calls out to Chris, thanking him for rescuing his subordinates, and they got to finish without any major injuries thanks to him. Chris is surprised he admitted that to him and says that he actually feels a bit bad now, and it makes him feel even worse knowing he swapped out the black pill. Still, he must do what he must do, and he tells him to call him Big Bro since he promised after all. Chris asks if he's going to go back on his word, and Alros says he's never made such a promise. He's 2 years older than him. The entire cave begins to shake, and people start falling over due to the intense pressure. Alros asks what's going on, and Chris starts to know what it is. As we see 2 giant blue eyes appear in front of them, Chris starts to look a bit anxious. We hear a monster saying that it's the first time it's seen a plaything in a while. Chris says this is a demon of Gehenna. Allo, shaking with fear, tells Chris to run away since he's an outsider and that he should save himself. Chris spots Simon up on the ceiling and rotates his wrist, getting the dagger ready, jetting it straight towards him. It goes straight through Simon, or at least it turns out that's his familiar that he was using to keep watch over things. As it starts to lose connection, Simon is surprised, asking when he noticed. He was planning on stopping the demon after observing for a bit. Now that the bat clone he planned to use to teleport there is gone, it'll take him at least 5 minutes to get there, even if he uses blood magic to its limits. And if he gets there too late, everybody will die. He immediately starts leaving. Turns out he's not a bad guy and he's just wanting to play a prank like he said. The demon calls that interesting, asking Chris what he's scheming. Chris says he just doesn't like it when people try to take sneak peeks at him. The demon laughs, saying that he sure does have a lot of concerns for a dead man. Chris says if you were to compare him to the demons he faced during the Age of Destruction, he would have to be a low-ranking demon, but he is at least a 5-star and he's not someone that he can currently face. He then raises his finger up into the sky, saying that it's not all bad. As he uses the same spell to put everybody else to sleep like he did that one girl when Lardos and Pomodore were trying to kill her, Yahello's subordinates start to lose consciousness. Alros yells, asking what the hell he's doing when they need to fight together. Chris says that he sure does have a strong resistance to magic and hits him straight in the gut, telling him to go to sleep already. I think he just killed him. Rip the demon asks if he's going to offer them to him and that he shall spare his life and even personally bless him in exchange for the sacrifices. Chris tells him to stop yapping and it's his principle not to associate with demons. As he starts to unshed the holy sword, the demon recognizes it, saying that the idea is commendable but a holy sword that he cannot use is merely a piece of junk. As he starts to prepare a spell, it shoots out directly towards Chris. He blocks it with his sword, but it's not enough as it sends him flying into the wall of the cave, knocking him unconscious. The demon then grabs him by his arm and lifts him into the air, saying that he shall give him a chance to offer them to him and then he shall spare his insignificant life. Chris spits in his face and asks why he thinks he can't use the holy sword. He manages to free himself from its grasp and grabs onto his legs. Tucking as he lands the flip onto the ground, he then starts to use his other energy core as the holy sword's tip begins to regrow using aura. The demon looks nervous, asking how a fiend like himself can use the power of light. Chris asks if he's finally feeling as if his life is in danger. The demon says that this isn't going to stop him as he starts to form a giant red orb directly in front of Chris. Chris readies himself, taking a slightly wider stance and yells, using the Dead Sea cleaving light as he swings his sword down, sending out a giant yellow wave directly towards the demon. The demon says this can't be as it takes the attack. It lets out a scream, and I'm assuming that he kills it because it drops to the floor. Chris's eyes look extremely tired, and he says that he pushed his body too hard. As his vision grows more narrow with every passing second, he starts to fall over onto the ground, and they begin to lose focus. We then see his past life, and Evan is asking him if he really replicated his ability. Chris says that it was sort of like this, and Evan says that he sure is something and that the Dead Sea cleaving light literally signifies the single flash of light that divides the Dead Sea. But it's ironic. Despite using the sword technique, he failed to become the light of the Mir clan, but Chris surely will become the light who will save the world. As we see a blue finger touch a puddle, we see Chris still on the verge of death, and the woman says that this is interesting. She says that her name is Mefina, the first seat of Gehenna, 7th realm. Chris closes his eyes as Meph says that she looks forward to his actions in the future. It then jumps to the manor of Count Timon. Chris says that his head hurts and he can't believe that he's been lying here for 2 whole days. It's been a complete waste of time, but his body still seems fine. He starts looking around for the black puddle, spotting it beside him saying this is great. He mentions the Methina thing, saying that it was unwanted attention. Occasionally, fiends who stand out early on receive a demon's blessing and can be nurtured quickly, but he doesn't care since it's something bad guys receive. But a seventh world demon wouldn't even be that high level to begin with. Some giant lion-like dude enters the room asking Chris how his body is, and we are introduced to the patriarch of House Tyramin. The Count Chris greets him and goes to get up to bow, but the Count tells him that he should just rest. Chris wonders what's going on, and he says yesterday they organized an investigation squad and checked the cave. It seems that someone had tampered with the magic circle that seals the entrance to Gehenna. Fortunately, it seems the demon kin was reverse summoned in the meantime, but no matter how much of a fleeting moment it was more than enough time for everyone to lose their lives. Chris wonders if they really believe it was a reverse summon, but it doesn't make sense since it would be difficult for them to even consider that he killed it since he doesn't need to think of an excuse. That's a plus. The Count says that he would like to start with an apology. He's sorry for treating him so poorly using only the rumors of him being a good-for-nothing. He then bows, thanking him, saying that he is a benefactor of House Tyramin and he is grateful for him. Chris tells him not at all, and as a member of the Dark Magic clan, he just did what he needed to do as they are family after all. While it does hurt his conscience, he decides to muddy the water a little bit, but it seems like that resonates with the Count. He says that's right, and if there is something he can help with, then he should let him know as long as it isn't something impossible. He will make sure it will happen. Chris thinks about it, saying in that case, he hopes that House Tyramin will shake off the old grudge against House Khazar instead of the enemy-like relationship they have now where they keep bearing their fan.as they each other. He wishes that they would have a friendly but competitive relationship where they can plan for proper advancements together, something that matches the fact that they are bloodline. Ken then goes to say something, but Chris says that he's sure he also knows the reason why their two houses are feuding is because of the behind-the-scenes work of the main clan. Since if the branch families work together from the main clan's perspective, they may feel threatened, it's a scheme to keep them as mere dogs who guard the house. The Count asks if he's planning a revolt against the main clan, and Chris says that he has no such thoughts. The Count can't believe that he would think so far ahead, and Chris thanks him for the praise, asking if he'll accept his request. The Count sighs, saying that for the first time in a while he should contact Count Khazar, but before he finishes his sentence, he calls him by his name instead. Chris smiles, saying that's right, and if he just unites their forces like this one at a time, they can establish a much firmer front during the Age of Destruction. The Count then gets back to asking him what he's waiting for, saying that his son had something he wanted to say. Alros tells him to take this, and we see him embarrassed as he holds out the ash pill. He says when he came inside the cave, it was on the floor, and since he showed no signs of waking up, he made sure to take care of it. Chris says if it happens to be that he is so grateful that he wants to give him more things, he can do that too. Alros starts barking at him, and the Count laughs, saying that he shall give him a gift instead. It's a summoning stone that can store up to a rank 4 demon beast. Chris says this is a really rare item. The Count says that he'll also make a report so that he can participate in the Sacred Dark R and wishes him good results. Chris thanks him for both the gift and his encouragement. The Count then tells him to rest up as he and Alros leave. Chris smiles and tells somebody to come out. Behind the curtain, we see a red aura, and Simon says as expected, it wasn't a coincidence that he had discovered him. To think that he could see through stealth that even the Count could not. Chris said that he could smell the scent of blood. Simon introduces himself as the head butler of the Dark Magic clan. Chris wonders if this means that he is the Elder Head's henchman. Chris then wonders where he's heard the name Simon before and says that this is the master of the Blood Shadow Mages. He explains that the Blood Shadow Mages don't differentiate between the Magic Empire and the Dominion of Light. They are a psychotic organization who reveled in indiscriminate slaughter and terrorism. The leader was a fiend who reached the heights of 8 stars, and during the endgame of the Age of Destruction, he reached 9 stars and became the 10th Demon King. He can't even count how many times they almost died because of that leader, and not to mention, Simon is the blood and flesh of the Demon King of Carnage. Simon said that he never thought that the young master would be this amazing. Not only that, but to think that he could even eliminate a demon. Chris says that he's certain that he took care of it alone, asking if he might have seen the Dead Sea cleaving light. Simon says that he can tell he's playing dumb. After having gone to the cave, even the demonkin's corpse was completely annihilated, leaving no trace. And that it was not a reverse summoning, for it to be completely vaporized inside the cave. He's impressed by his skills, and he wants him to explain how he did it, as he should understand what he's saying since it will all be reported to the Elder Clan head. Chris asks why he should reveal his trump card. Simon reminds him that this will be reported to the Elder, and Chris says that if he were the Elder Clan head instead of a little nerd who answers every question, he would be like a predator who keeps their claws hidden to the very end. Simon looks surprised, saying that he surely is an interesting person. And Chris asks if he's not going to apologize. Simon asks what for, and Chris says it's normally difficult to differentiate between a reverse summoning and annihilation just using traces. That's why the Count misunderstood it to be reverse summoning. However, there must be a reason he believes it to be the opposite, and it's simple once he thinks about it, and that is because he was the summoner himself. And a demonkin summoning case where a member of the clan almost died would sure be some crazy news and might even be overheard by the Elder Clan head. Simon says that he will take responsibility, and Chris decides to keep it a secret. Instead, he should remember this, and that he owes him a big favor. Simon looks surprised, asking if this is a deal, and Chris says that it would be great if that's how he decided to understand it. Simon says that this is understood and he won't forget this mercy that he's shown him, and it was great meeting him today. He hopes to see him again soon, and he'll be counting down the days until he arrives at the main clan. Chris explains that Simon is a person who will have an important role to play during the Age of Destruction. Therefore, he absolutely needs to form a connection in order to change the future. We see Chris's luggage floating through the air as Mary says that she's finished the preparations to return home. He tells her good work, and Alrose opens the door and peers in, asking if he's leaving now. Chris reminds him to use his title, and Alrose asks what he means. Chris says that he let it slide yesterday in front of the Count, but a promise is a promise, and that he has to call him Big Bro from now on. Alrose says that he already told him he's 2 years older than he is, and Chris asks if he has something he wanted to say. Alrose says that he came to warn him. He said that they were all a family, and after hearing that, he felt that it wasn't right to do this to family and to be careful as he's already aware, but the one that was most against his attendance of the sacred dark rite was young Master Loin. He should know that even 2 stars are not of the same level between the main families and branch families. The greatest elixir, the ultimate techniques of the main family, and blessings of dark magic, the starting line for direct descendants is much further ahead than where they of the branch families begin. He's going to be easy pickings. Chris smiles, saying that he'll give him a warning as well and calls him Little Bro. He tells him not to participate in the upcoming sacred dark rite as he's saying this for his own good. Alrose says that he was only saying this out of worry and he's not letting him monopolize the pure dark energy. Chris tells him to keep this in mind no matter who his opponents are, they'll come to regret facing him in the sacred dark rite. Alrose starts to get pissed, and Chris tells Mary it's time to go. He tells Alrose to think about it and not to regret it later. He heads back to the house of Count Khazar. We see them going to find his brother but only being informed that he left for the training cave immediately. Upon returning, the butler says that he wished to train alone until the sacred dark rite. We see them finally catch up to him, and he calls him his full title, the Honorable King Emperor Majest brother. He says that he promised him that he'll duel him once he returns. Chris is surprised by how much he's grown in such a short time and that he's already a middle 2-star, and he sure is growing quickly. He says that he's busy and needs to train. Chris realizes that he's also participating in the upcoming sacred dark rite, and that won't do. He tells him to wait for now and they can duel after he's done training and that he should train too. Then wants him to promise that he won't push it further back, and it won't be anything like last time, so to watch out. Chris says okay, and then walks away. Chris says that he sure is a stubborn brat, and we see a girl asking if he promised, and Chris says that he reminds him of her a lot. In the training area, we see Chris sitting in his bed looking down at the black pill thinking about it. He says he is half a month until the rite, and he starts to chomp into it. He says this tastes like straight ass. Then he lays down starting to actually try his best to absorb it as it floats through his pathways. He says it's more turbulent than he expected. He then starts to feel a weird sensation asking what this is and if that is light force he senses within the pill. He wonders if the elation that the monster experienced upon death became a part of the pill, and he says no wonder they are difficult for fiends to absorb. But that is all irrelevant to him as he continues absorbing it into all of his pathways. He says all that's left is this light force, and that fiends would normally expel this energy with the help of their teacher, but why should he let such a nice thing go to waste? And then he's going to take it all into his light core and absorb both of them at the exact same time. As he has both light and dark flying through his pathways, each one going to their respective core, taking every single thing this pill has to offer, Chris opens his eyes to reveal a very bright light, only to close them once more to show off the darkness. This time, and then a little later, we see a woman telling someone to enter. He says that he has a report on the investigation she requested. He says that during the black pill hunt, there was an incident where a demon kin was summoned, but he survived it. He's sorry that the investigation took longer because he had to look into the incident as well. She tells him good work, and he says that unless she has any more questions, he shall take his leave. As she's looking at a photo of Chris, we learn that her name is Eidline. We then get another time skip of half a month, and there is knocking on the door saying that today is the promised day. Chris tells him to enter, and then does so. He's surprised. Chris says that since he's coming first thing in the morning, he must be really looking forward to getting plummeted. Then, he's just wondering what's going on since his presence leaks beyond what it was half a month ago and tells him not to make him laugh. Chris says that if he's desperate for a taste of an ass whooping, he'll grant him one right now, but if he wins, he should give up on participating in the upcoming Sacred Dark Rite. Then, he asks what he's saying, and Chris says that as he knows, it's a competition, and weaklings should stay out of it. Then, he tells him to shut up and raise his sword. Chris says that he's so blind to him showing brotherly concern, and he guesses that he needs to knock it into his skull for him to get it. Then, he dashes off the ground screaming it. Then, he jumps to Bro, being in the infirmary. He got off screen. Their father says that Chris went overboard and that the healer said that he'll be in bed rest for half a month. He guesses then we'll have no choice but to wait for the next rite. Then, he tries to argue against it, and Chris says that he wants a moment alone with him. His father says okay, and then he'll let them talk it out with his brothers. After he leaves, Chris approaches the bed, asking what he's pouting about and not to whine like a baby when he's the one who asked for the fight. Then, he says that he must truly dislike seeing him grow as he mocks him and looks down on his achievements. Now, he's deliberately injuring him so he can't participate in the sacred rite. Chris says that he's going to cry at this rate, and he thinks that they aren't on the same page. Here, he did that in hopes of him becoming stronger for him. If they compete against each other in the rite, he will forever lose his chance to obtain pure dark energy, and he needs to be rough because of how stubborn he is. Asking if he understands, but most importantly, pure dark energy doesn't suit him. Then, he asks what he means, and Chris says that his best suited energy is gray. Dark energy instead. We learn that just like how the power of light divides into various types, there are also a variety of dark energies. Pure dark energy is the highest attribute of all dark energies. Right below it is a gray dark energy, a type suited for curse magic. He says surely he's found it easier to master curse magic than swordsmanship. Then, he asks how he knows this, and Chris says that he can't tell him that he learned the future and that he should come up with a decent excuse, saying that he can tell that much while sparring with him. Chris tells him that if he takes in pure dark energy before he masters great dark energy, it can cause problems when he tries to learn it later. Of course, it won't be impossible since pure dark energy is the higher attribute, but he'll be impeded by its unique properties, and it will only slow him down. He wants to become as strong as possible as soon as possible, and he wants him to think these things over before participating in the ritual. This is his sincere advice to him as an older brother rooting for his younger brother's growth. Then, looks super touched, and then Chris gives him a gift. He sees it and recognizes it as an ash pill. Asking why he's giving him such a valuable item, Chris says that's because he's his little brother. Asking what other reasons he needs, he already ate something better anyway. Then, even starts to tear up and damn, this is just way too wholesome. He says, if he was capable of changing like this, he wonders why he acted like a turd. Even when their mother was on her deathbed, and if he knows how much heartache their mother suffered through because of him. Chris stares at him and sits down beside him, saying that he didn't understand it back then. It then jumps to later as the carriages come to a stop. Chris exits, saying that he needs a good stretch, asking how far they traveled since his whole body aches. He asks if it would hurt for them to open the warp gate, and he can't believe they're being this petty. This is going to change once he becomes the clan head. Mary then flies in, saying that she can't believe they're going on a date with just the two of them. Also, that this is making her heart go crazy. He says that she doesn't even have a heart, and he explains that because the main family limited him to bring in one companion, he can only come with Mary since she's attached to him due to their pact. He sees other people talking about him, and Mary says that he is already famous. We then hear Simon calling him the young master, and everybody else is surprised as they recognize him and they ask what the head butler is doing the greeting. The good-for-nothing Simon says that it's only been half a month, but he's managed to grow so much more. Chris asks if the elder clan head, Aid, has nothing better to do with his time. Simon says nonsense as he is here on his orders specifically, and that the elder clan head would like to meet him personally. Simon says that he doesn't even seem surprised, asking if he was expecting this. Chris says that no, he actually was surprised, but Simon says that's not what he saw. It then jumps to the clan head's room, and Simon says that he's brought him the clan head. The clan head says good and tells Chris that it's been a while. As we see Marion with him too, Chris starts to feel a very powerful gaze, saying that this presence is dominating and he can barely stand from the pressure alone. And for him to exude such dark energy despite knowing that someone of his level can't withstand it is pretty crazy. His hands start shaking, and he lowers his head, greeting the Duke. The Duke asks if he was not surprised by the sudden meeting with him, and Chris says that he expected him to call him the Duke. The Duke asks why, and Chris says that it's because a new star has appeared in the clan. The Duke laughs, saying that's correct. Neither Marion nor Simon could hold back their compliments, and yet he can't quite tell if he should have any expectations. Chris doesn't reply yet as the Duke continues, saying that no matter how great of a seed he may be, only time will tell how he will grow in the future. He could be a sapling that withers away. As soon as he sprouts above ground and Chris says that he is correct, he is still too lacking to match his expectations. The Duke asks if he's saying he won't be able to in the future, and Chris says that only time will tell if a sapling will surpass expectations and grow into a great tree, or perhaps it will even grow into an abnormality that even casts a shadow upon a great tree. At the very least, he knows he will not disappoint him. The Duke laughs once more and says that he shall have high hopes from him, and he is now excused. After he leaves, Marin asks him what he thinks, and he says that he was beyond his expectations. However, because he holds such great talent, his fate will be much more turbulent, and that she knows as well that the bloody winds blowing towards the magic empire will soon be coming their way, but that's not terrible news because a small hope has actually sprouted today. Marin looks surprised by this, and the Duke says that he might actually indeed be able to fulfill his long-desired wish. It is now the eve of the sacred darkness, and they start announcing the arrival of Count Khazar's eldest son, which is none other than Chris. I'll drip the hell out, people. Wonder why the Duke wanted to meet with a fool like him anyways? And they say that he seems like a jig. Chris says that he knew it and that he is way too handsome, and it's all because he's just too damn good looking. Mary, of course, is the ultimate hype man, saying that he sure is. He then spots some drinks and says that surely that's alcohol. As he walks over, the waitress says that he's not allowed to have any because he's underage. Instead of alcohol, he can have some ginger ale, and they even start laughing at him. Chris can't believe that these people are so damn lame, and he doesn't want ginger ale. He wants alcohol. They then continue to announce the arrival of the young lords and young ladies. As the doors slowly open, we see them all walking out into the room. We are formally introduced to Eskid, who was the second young lord, which we know of, Julienne, who was the first young lady who has also been mentioned, and now the ones who haven't, such as Jian, the second young lady, and Miss Ak, the third young lord. As they all start to walk forward, we see there are only 4 of them rather than all 5. Chris says that the first young lord seems to not be in attendance, and he wonders what Eskid will say to him since he's the victim of his little game. The one that solidified his reputation, Eskid, completely walks by not saying a single word, much to his surprise. Chris is just annoyed that he won't look him in the eyes after everything he's done. He guesses that he is no better than him. Julienne, though, raises her skirt, giving him a slight greeting, which also catches him off guard. But he recognizes her as Julianne and how his aunt told him to be careful of her. But he didn't sense anything in particular out of order. Chris says that he'll figure it out later. This is enough recon for today, and it's time for him to get back and prepare for the right butler. Then, a butler then appears behind him, clearing his throat, saying that his name is Flower and he is a summoner working for a young masterloin. Chris asks why that matters, and he says that he heard that someone who was unworthy will be participating in tomorrow's sacred dark rite, and he is worried that an underqualified participant might cause an accident, sullying the name of the Great Dark Clan. Chris asks if he is seriously trying to say that he's talking about him, and Flower says that he just simply has to prove that he is not. Chris then looks up towards the upper floors, and he sees Loin glaring down at him. Chris says that if he doesn't like him, he should step up himself and that they can have their little heart-to-heart during the rite. He says that he'll do it since it doesn't even sound like an inconvenience, and now he wants to see the party tricks. He says not here since he's unarmed, and Chris asks if he really expects him to use a weapon to face some rat like himself. Flower says that he will regret this, and Chris asks if he's sure since he thinks he's going to be the one to regret this. We see both Chan and Julianne staring at Chris, particularly Julianne. All of the guests start to look surprised by something, and we see what it is now. As it is, Flower is getting himself rocked by a bunch of spirits while they even start feeding Chris grapes and treating him like royalty. The guests wonder what the hell that is they are witnessing because Flower started by summoning evil spirits, but they instantly turned against their summoner with just a single gesture, and they wonder how he gained control so quickly. Chris asks if that was young Master Lo's wishes just now, and that's pretty unbecoming of a direct heir of the Dark Magic clan, and he should have just challenged him to a duel if he had any grievance. Lo says the incident has nothing to do with him. Chris says not even a fool would fall for that lie, but he'll just believe him this once. Now they can meet again during the sacred dark rite, and that he sure does find him cowardly, but he'll make sure to teach him some manners next time. It's now the day of the dark rite, as we see Chris entering straight, yawning, and looking ugly. Mode Alrose asks if he's not even the slightest bit nervous since he caused a ruckus yesterday. Chris asks why he came here, even though we warned him not to. Calling him little bro, Alrose asks how he could push back the sacred dark rite, calling him crazy. Loin then makes his way down the stairs, glaring at the rest like he's so much better than them. Chris tells him just to wait. We then hear an older person's voice as they ask if everybody's assembled. They introduce themselves as Sebastian, the vice butler in charge of the main house. He says that he shall now take them to the sacred ground where the dark rite will take place. He taps the floor with his staff, sending out some weird colors. It looks like a bad acid trip. Everybody else sees some stairs forming up underneath them and they're surprised by this. Chris says that's not exactly what it is and it might be an illusionary art that materializes an imaginary space. Sebastian starts walking down them, but he's going extremely fast and the rest start panicking, saying that he's leaving them since they're being left behind. They need to hurry as they start sticking close to him, following each and every turn. Some of the participants say this is weird and they thought they went underground, so why is there such a steep slope? Even Loin and Alrose look like they're struggling. Sebastian tells everybody to please hurry up as the ground will not support them forever and they even start falling off into the void. The other participants look nervous and Sebastian says that since they're late, he's going to be speeding up now and he starts to move even faster than he did before. A little later, even more people have fallen off and Loin says that losers should know their place and they don't deserve to be up here. We see him sweating, but then he spots Chris effortlessly glide past him and he wonders how since he's not even sweating. Chris asks him if he's really out of breath and he guesses he's all bark and no bite, saying as a direct heir he should be better than this. They fed him a bunch of good potions. Chris says that their stupidity only made their bodies suffer, and it's a waste to run earnestly in an illusion in an illusionary space. No matter how hard he pushes himself, his stamina doesn't get drained at all. And just by twisting one spell, he can become invincible within this realm. Sebastian looks pleased, saying that he must be the young Master Christian. They finally get to where they're going, and everybody's panting, gassed out. Alrose asks why Chris isn't scathed. He says this is why he should have trained his body more instead of riding his beast everywhere. We then hear a different voice welcoming everybody as a crystal forms in front of them. It floats around the room, and she says that as they may all know, this is the sacred ground where the purest of pure dark energy bursts forth. Thus, they call it the sacred darkness. And she introduces herself as Rahu, the manager of the sacred ground. She welcomes the young masters and young misses. She says what they will be doing today is obtaining the great pure darkness like the third-ranked demon king, the Dark Destroyer, the progenitor of the dark magic clan. A blue light then starts to form on the ground, weaving underneath every single one of them, and she says that there is not enough for all of them to share. All of the demon beasts inside will test their worthiness. Chris asks if all she's saying is that it's based on who arrives first, and she says it's very perceptive. Chris asks what if an unforeseen mishap occurs, making the competitors fight one another during the rite, and if they will be disqualified. She says that because each of them will be on a different path, they should not run into one another, but on the off chance they do, they should avoid conflict as the more time they waste, the better it will serve the other competitors. She starts to count down, saying that they need to focus up and prioritize their own safety. May fortune be with them as the countdown is finally ending. They all start running off down their own paths. We see Sebastian and Raha standing there, and Sebastian asks if she wants to bet some blood juice on who will win. But of course, she vanishes, and he can't believe that he got brushed off once more. We see Loin making his way forward down a tunnel. He spots a swarm of beasts ahead of him. They start preparing magic and leaping at him with fire in their mouths. He starts to imbue his hand with aura as he smacks forward, hitting one in the throat and quickly moving from wolf to wolf, getting rid of them on the spot. He says that at best, they are lower-ranked second-tier magic creatures and that these are nothing to him, an upper 2-star though. He's sure that Chris is having a very rough time right now. According to the rules, each path is supposed to have the same distance and time. However, he bribed a mage so that only Chris's path will have stronger demon beasts, and that he's going to come across some stronger demon beasts by pure coincidence. We need a tragic fate since any death that occurs during this is overlooked. It's going to be his grave. After a while, he finally comes across a door, and Lo says that this must be it to the sacred ground, and Chris knew he'd be the first one here. Chris asks what took him so long, as he thought he was going to die of boredom from all the waiting. Lo asks how he got here so fast, and Chris says there wasn't much to it. Loy says that's not possible, as his path should have had much stronger monsters. Then he closes his mouth, realizing what he was saying. Chris smiles, saying no wonder he thought they were at a higher level than they should be, so it was all his doing. Lo asks who he is to throw allegations like this. Chris says that it's only going to be the two of them for a bit, asking if there's any need for formalities. Lo calls him an arrogant turd, saying it's taboo for competitors to clash during the right time, but he's going to crush him here and now. As he swings forward, Chris easily dodges the attack and says that he's using magic combat arts. It's a combat technique that explodes magic power at close range or disables his opponents by snapping their joints. Chris continuously avoids each and every one of the attacks to the point that he's getting annoyed, and Lo even calls him a slippery rat. Lo then spots Chris's hand, thinking that it's an opening, and charges forward, saying that he's going to break him. Chris calls him a dumbass and he grabs his wrist instead, putting him into an armor. He tells him not to cry even if it hurts, and then all we hear is the sound of it snapping, and he lets out a very loud scream. We then see Alrose running down the hallway, asking if he's too late, only to see Lo and another competitor both lying on the floor. Alrose asks Chris if he did this, and Chris calls him slow as hell, asking if he's going to faint on his own now or if he needs to beat him until he does. Alrose says that he hasn't been sitting around doing nothing and to come at him. Of course, he got folded like an omelet, and Chris says that was some real déjà vu. He's sure they'll find them if he just leaves them here. He explains that 5 years from now, the first great war against the Alliance will break out, and he needs to have the Dark Magic clan within die in his grasp before then, which is why he can't share even an ounce of the darkness with them, and since he's done cleaning up, it's time for him to take possession of the sacred darkness once and for all. The sacred darkness is the power that grants a fiend the possibility of becoming a true transcendent. The Duke, who is known to have absorbed 80% of it, is one of the strongest alive, even amongst the demon monarchs. The Dark Destroyer also absorbed more than 90% of the pure dark energy to become a demon king, meaning if he can make 100% of the dark energy, he can exceed even the demon emperor himself. As he stands before it, he slowly stretches his hand out until it starts pouring through all of his paths. It then jumps to some people, saying that was unbelievable. Every other person than Chris was eliminated. This is a disaster as the young Master Loin is in serious condition. They start saying that he probably used a trick or a banned magic tool and that they need to investigate thoroughly and punish him. Jian says that won't be necessary as that bastard won't be able to enter the sacred ground anyway. The fact that he hasn't left for 2 days must mean that unless this is all the time required to absorb the sacred darkness due to the quantity, he is already being crushed by the sacred darkness and died. Even the Duke had run into a limit of how much he could absorb, and that Chris is definitely dead and there won't even be a corpse. Left behind, as she walks away, she closes the door and looks pissed, saying that even if he comes back alive, she'll kill him herself because when her father died during his battle against the Alliance, only she and Loin were adopted by their uncle Viscount Langham. That's why her footing within the clan is already unstable, and since Lo wasn't able to receive the sacred darkness either, no one will support him in becoming the successor, and that she will pay Chris back for this indignity. Even some of them start saying that the good-for-nothing still isn't out yet and that he must already be dead and it's punishment for being greedy without knowing his place, and they say that even the ghost over there is waiting for her master, but she'll soon meet her master's ghost. Mary puts a hole into one of the bags, pretty much giving them a warning, and she says that her heart flutters as she waits for her young master, but if they keep being noisy around her, she'll turn them into ghosts under her control. They run away saying they're sorry, and she returns back to being a cutie pie, telling Chris to return quickly as a man who makes a maiden way is not cool at all. It then jumps to Chris, sweating hella, saying that this is an unending darkness that chokes the breath from his throat and that he's only around the 70% mark and that this is a lot more difficult than he expected, but he has to endure no matter what. The real test will begin around the 90% mark and if he takes in too much, he will die. Ceases his limit, his core will shatter, and he will die here before the war even starts. He then realizes something, saying that's right, and that if only he had a dragon heart, the dragon has the largest container for their core. So even if it's just for a few minutes, he can imitate its heart. There might be something about it. As he does his best to do so, even more energy is being absorbed, and it slowly starts to shatter. He says this is his limit and needs to stop. We hear Mafina asking him if he needs help. He then sees her appear in front of him in this subspace, and she's a big girl, but he is just taken aback. He asks how a demon is in this space, and she says that the power of demons is to communicate within darkness, and this poses no difficulty to her. And that it is possible for her to help him in this instance without any conditions. He asks why, and she laughs, saying that it's just a fleeting whim to take her hand as it will let him take in all of the sacred darkness. It then jumps to 1 week later, as the Duke is setting down his cup. He says that he would be hard-pressed to say that Chris is still alive when there has been no news at all. Marin seems confused, asking why he would be so greedy to this point. Simon says that Count Langham also agrees with him, and he wishes to close the pathway leading to the sacred ground. Soon, the Duke thinks about it and asks Simon if he will give the command. The Duke says that he is just trying to test this old man, and he asks Simon if he thinks that Reckless Child is still alive. Simon says the odds are close to 0 but that he is pretty interesting, so he doesn't actually know. The Duke thinks about it a little longer, saying 1 day and that they'll keep it open for legit just 1 more day. Marin sighs out of relief, and Simon says that he'll go spread the word. Chris's course gets overflowed by the pure dark energy, as a result his heart is paining and can explode anytime. This mommy demon tells him to grab her hand before it's too late. Instead of taking her help he stubbornly refuses. Hearing this she tells him he is extremely foolish, telling him that he should know that there is a limit beyond which humans are not permitted. Hearing this our Chad gets pissed, telling him that it seems like he is forgetting something. Since they are currently in a world full of concepts. What our Chad does next shocks her, as our Chad starts glowing like his hair turns grey and his eyes turn red. Our Chad has grown red horns and transformed into a demon. What he just did now is demonization, shocking her. Looks fire, to be honest. This technique is the Mystic Clan's ultimate technique. It is a forbidden spell where a mortal temporarily transforms into a demon to bring forth explosive abilities. Although it is powerful, it is lethal to the user. In the past Lena died after casting this spell. It's probably that fox girl who taught our Chad all info about the demon clans. If he were to remove the parts of the spell that amplify dark energy, he can use this world's dark energy to his advantage and form a bowl to collect the energy without accruing any penalties. As our Chad forms the bowl gathering the energy and slowly and steadily the dark energy starts accumulating. Since this plan worked with this container, he can collect beyond 90% purity and make all the sacred darkness his. The demon mommy is in disbelief that our Chad formed a black crescent. It's not possible that a mere mortal no different than an insect has shed his body, in order what she said that he has surpassed human limits. As he gets all classy telling her that it's because he is genius. As he exits the space he tells her that she can go on living her but she will take her leave. As he was leaving she tells him that she will see him another time. Hearing this our Chad turns around and right before the portal closes he takes out his middle finger telling her to piss off. She remains quiet for a while then figure out what he means, and starts laughing. Our Chad gets out cursing her telling her that he would be crazy to see her again, call her a raucous demon. Our Chad wonders how much time has passed. According to him it must be a week so the family must be in chaos. He undoes the demonization and says that it's time he should play a prank. After some time a butler barges into the Lord office telling him that Chris has returned. Hearing this everyone in the room is shocked telling him how it is that he is still alive. The acting head let's call him Donkey tell the minion to elaborate what happened. He says that our Chad survived with his life hanging by a thread as a result he is extremely fatigued. From what the healer said he is sensing pure dark energy but it's a mess. So it will be difficult for him to utilize the energy forward the energy. One turd curses our Chad telling him that what can they expect from a turd like our Chad and there is no way he absorbed more than 80% of the sacred darkness. The energy was wasted because of this and one fatso tells the Lord that our Chad must take responsibility of this. With a cold face he tells them that he will keep note of this and tells them to leave since the meeting is done for. After they are gone he asks someone if the report is true. He says that he observed our Chad next to a healer and it is clear that a problem had occurred with his core. Hearing this he continues to tap on the table and the old man nervously sees him being quiet. As he gets colder he tells this guy that Loin needed to become the young lord, a sacrificial lamb and the key to their plans with the poison magic clan. This crazy donkey says that their plan of eradication all with something called Jupian has been postponed. As for Chris it's unsettling that his father is paying attention to our Chad and because of him the flow of the river is disrupting. Hearing this the man keep quiet as if he needs to go to the toilet. After a few more of this annoying tapping he orders his to bring Chris down to the darkness hall the following day. He will announce Chris's coming of disposal before vassals. The next day as our Chad was summoned, he thinks that they are desperately trying to get rid of him. Since they gathered all important people here for this meeting. This donkey asks our Chad if he is aware of the sins our Chad has committed during the sacred rites. Our Chad says he is aware all while the leader is seeing a distorted core. He asks Chris to elaborate and he says that his peers are unworthy of their lineage so he should have pummeled them even more. Hearing this an ugly female wearing a suit gets angry. The donkey explains that our Chad's mistake was that even though he was able to monopolize the precious resource of the dark magic clan, he wasn't able to produce a result befitting of that privilege. Chris asks him by what measure did he use to exactly come to this conclusion. He says that a purity of 70% is a bare minimum. Our Chad asks him what sort of punishment he would befallen him if it's below 70%. This fish face says that he will not inherit any of the dark magic techniques. Additionally, he will forever be barred from entering the grounds of the main house, and his succession of the house of Count Khazar will be denied as well. Our Chad acts as if he doesn't care telling him how he is going to measure it, as it seems even he cannot fully measure it. That's when the fake Eskid raises his hand telling our Chad that he's CA help. He says that although Christian's core is in chaos, a dark energy clash should be able to measure his purity. Since he absorbs 70% of the sacred darkness, if our Chad is able to overpower him, then that would mean our Chad has achieved greater. A dark energy clash is a battle purely measure the superiority of one's dark energy against another's. In a battle purely, to measure the superiority of one's dark energy against another's. Given the same amount of dark energy, whoever possesses more pure dark energy would overpower the other in an instant. But when pure energy of similar ranks clash, the one with higher purity would be victorious. According to our Chad, it's the perfect way to destroy his core. He thinks to himself that this guy is more sinister than he had expected. Before they began, our Chad has a condition: if he were to achieve a great enough result, they must support our Chad and allow him to attempt the test of the young lord. Hearing this, a few get shocked, but his third brother agrees, telling them it doesn't matter if one is of direct bloodline or a branch family when aiming for the seat of the young lord. As the other remains quiet, he says that it's the way the magic empire for the strong to lord over the weak. As he gets onto the stage, he tells Chris that during the dark energy clash, if one doesn't have sufficient control over it, it could hurt your core. So to match his rank, he will only use dark energy of only a beginner 2-star level. As they reels their energy, our Chad tells him that he doesn't need to do that and should worry about his precious core. As he releases his energy, the turd says that hearing him speak such word makes him look forward. As they collide, our Chad instantly overpowers his 2-star dark energy. This turd is shocked because his dark energy was nullified without our Chad gathering any strength of his own. He uses the dark energy of an expert 2-star, but the results are the same. Our Chad, seeing this display, says that it's an utter disappointment. He angers him more, telling him that he was acting so high in might yet he is this weak. Because of this taunt, he releases aura. Seeing the reels, the others says that it's a 4-star dark energy. If it hits, it will shatter our Chad's core. A dragon-like energy forms around him. But another dark energy forms from the other side. A huge claw large enough to squash it forms. It's so enormous that in front of it the dragon looks like an ant. As our Chad tells this turd that during an energy clash, if one doesn't have enough control, one could hurt his core, so he should be careful, as the energy damages his core, making him scoff blood. Our Chad takes the energy back, thinking it was not enough and he should have broken his core. Since he is smart, he coincides telling everyone that our Chad has a purity of at least 90%. Hearing this, everyone gets shocked and our Chad turns around telling the Lord that he now has the right to be a young lord. Hearing this, the donkey is shocked, not showing a single reaction on his ugly face. Like always, this ugly turd continues to tap on the table, then tells our Chad that as promised it will be permitted to take the test of the young lord. However, no member of a branch family has taken the test before. As the acting head, he will randomly select a test for our Chad. Chris thinks to himself that what he is saying is that he will give him a test that'll be impossible for our Chad to pass. His qualifications will be assesses at 2 different points. First, he will prove his talents. Next, he will need to achieve a feat befitting of a young lord. Our Chad asks him how he is going to prove his talent, and the turd asks him to reach 3 stars in 3 months. Our Chad remains quiet, telling him if that is all, stating that he is a genius after all, so it won't be that difficult. The man remains quiet, then says that he is looking forwards to seeing what he achieves in 3 months. Later that in a quiet room, the turds sit across each other. As the retard sips tea, he is disappointed on Eskid, and he says that it is all his fault for having underestimating our Chad. Because of this, even his core took a blow, so they must deal with him quickly before he becomes a problem. He tells this junior turd to not worry, since he should be aware why they intentionally go out of their way to not absorb more than 70% of the pure dark energy. The higher the purity of the absorbed dark energy, the more difficult it is to raise the rank of said energy. It is exponentially difficult. In fact, achieving a mere 3-star level will take multiple times longer than others. So he asks this turd what he thinks will be the case when he has absorbed 90%. So no matter how much of a genius he is, he won't be able to overcome that wall. Moving to our Chad, Marie serves him food, telling him that the news of his performance has spread throughout the mansion. She says that he has made her proud and her heart thrums for him. Chris tells him it's embarrassing. Marie says that while waiting for our Chad this time, she has truly realized what her feelings are for him. As she longed for him every day felt like an eternity. Damn, this hits hard. Hearing this, Chris remembers his past memories. The fox girl is worried about our Chad, and the saintess says that with his agility there is no way he would be hurt. She is Rania, as she tells him to give his hand to her. Hearing this, Foxy says that she can directly say she was worried about him. Hearing this, she gets embarrassed, telling that even the hero was worried about Chris. Remembering all this, our Chad gets happy, thinking to himself that after escaping his hellish can that only wished his death. His entire life was full of bloodshed until he met those with hearts filled with warmth. As Marie was preparing her blood juice, Chris says now he can speak words he couldn't, thanking Marie for waiting for him. Hearing this, she gets shy, telling him that he has finally understood her true feelings. She acts like her heart was racing. Hearing this, Chris says she doesn't have a heart to begin with. She is so cheesy that she tells him that it was stolen by our Chad. Chris says that since she waited for him, he will give her a reward, offering to go on a walk with him. Hearing this, she starts acting crazy. She gets all dressed up as they go on a walk. What a piece of art, she'd better get a body soon. Chris thinks it's cool to relax once in a while, and she still has to reach 3 starts in 3 months. He thinks that it will be tight, and even with the guidance of the branch family tutors, still handling over 90% darkness will be difficult by himself. That when a voice intrudes telling him that he is focused on going around and causing trouble. Turning around, it's our Chad's auntie, and he greets her. She asks him if this is the right time for him to be wandering around the garden without a care, asking him if he found a teacher to aid in his training. He asks her if it's her, but to his disappointment, it's not her. She shocks him when she says that it's not her but someone else. He tells Marie to leave, telling her that he will see her in dinner. As they walk down a staircase, our Chad tells her that he doesn't know who the teacher is, but he is thankful that she is thinking about her nephew. She says that she doesn't believe he should be thankful about this, explaining that he will experience it himself, elaborating that he is not kind with his teaching. To add fire to this, she says that not even one of her siblings could keep up with his training. She warns him that this opportunity will not come by often, so he should not disappoint him. As they reach the end, Chris gets shocked, asking her if the kid in front is lost. Well, why is 200 or 300 old year cosplaying a kid? This part is also very short since the chapter is very small. Seeing the kid, our Chad pats him on the head and asks him where his parents are. But the look on the face of the kid is more scary than he had thought of. That's when our Chad realizes what he has done. His aunt tells him to show some respect and start with a hello, since this is the incarnation of the clan head. As he observes Chris, he gives him a formal greeting. As dark energy exudes from our Chad, he is shocked to see that he has observed beyond 90%. He tells Chris that he has achieved something great. However, he should know that it was a foolish decision, which our boy has no objection against. Role-playing old man says that as the one with 80% of the sacred darkness, he encountered walls that were much higher than others. He shares that even their progenitor never would have been able to reach the stage he reached if not for the grace bestowed by the demon emperor. He cannot fathom the walls our Chad will encounter on his journey. As such, he offers to return a portion of our Chad's dark energy into ether. He says that with his talent he can easily handle 80% of the dark energy, and anything beyond that is greed. Before he could finish, our Chad a question to ask him, asking him why the dark clan has become so weak. This even alert his auntie until he start blabbering. With a straight face, he says that while they may not be at the level of the Mystic Magic Clan and the Undead Magic Clan, those called the Heaven Above the Heavens, they are still seen as the weakest among the 12 noble clans. The little old man asks him if there is a reason for this. Chris says that the Dark Magic Clan has certainly prospered beyond what success he knew in past generations. This is all thanks to the achievements of the clan head. Yet even so, the other fiends say that the Dark Magic Clan are not what they used to be. He says that there can only be one reason. It's because they lack the quantity of absolute stage individuals above 8-5 tars of power. Hearing this, old kid remains quiet. In the future, when the Demon King of Carnage attacks the Dark Magic Clan, at that time Nordian will have already died, since there is number 8 stars and only a few 7-star fiends will be left within the clan. Them, along with the clan's 10,000 soldiers, will fight against the Demon King. But in the end, they will be defeated and forced to become his slaves. That is how important the absolute stage personnel of B-stars and above are to the clan. And there is no way that the elder clan head isn't worried about this. The old kid agrees, saying that he understands that very well, but is concerned that he will be crushed under the weight of pure dark energy and won't be unable to grow. Chris asks him if he is not curious that with this power of his, will it only stop at strengthening the clan, or will he leap above those trials and become a being of limitless power that will rule over all? The kid laughs, saying that our Chad has a way with his words. He says that he won't regret this decision, as a dark energy forms under his legs. In a matter of seconds he gets engulfed into the pool. Waking up, he sees that he is in a forest. A voice says that his first task is to inherit the pure dark energy. Chris is confused as he tells him to survive. Behind Chris there is a hungry double-headed bear, as Chris notices its presence, telling himself that he is in a lot of danger. Using his sphere, he is observing our Chad. Auntie realizes that it is a trial and asks the clan head that throwing a 2-star child into a 4-star magic den. Hearing this, he summons another rock lizard. She apologizes to her nephew because of her words. It got harder. Old Kid says that as he continues his struggle to survive, he will come face to face with the true nature of pure dark energy. Understanding comes the fastest and deepest when one is forced onto the brink of death. He hopes that he won't get hurt badly, then sitting on a couch asks Marion if she has prepared them. She is ready with a box full of sweets. He gobbles them up, telling her that he cannot understand why he craves sweets every time he uses dark energy. This crazy guy turns off the lights and says that it is truly best to watch videos in the dark. So he is excited to watch the results of his grandson. Our Chad is facing a twin-headed bear and a rock lizard. Just one hit will end him. The lizard spits something and our Chad dodges it. This poison spit melted the tree in a second. But still, in the end, it's just a training assignment. Chris calls the clan head, asking him if he is listening. He says that there is no way the clan head would give him an assignment without an answer. Since there is no answer, Chris says that for an answer, he has to defeat a monster that is incredibly stronger than him. His auntie thinks to herself that he just wants to see him get pummeled and thrown about. Chris confidently says that it will be a piece of cake, as he gets ready to one-shot them. Welcome back, guys. This short part starts with the bear attacking our Chad. As the strike was about to land, Chris thinks that the speed and power of the attack is too strong. As he dodges the attack, he thinks to himself that there must be a pay to defeat them. From the orb they are observing our Chad, cosplaying Old Man says that he surely has talent as he elaborates that Chris's movement is different from the others. But Marion says that no matter what, he is still a child. But they observe that our Chad has already finished the bear, which shocks them completely. Moving to our Chad, he contacts him asking Chris how he managed to slay it so easily. He explains that this guy has high physical strength and defense, but agility and magic resistance are reduced. Thanks to this, he exploited this gap, and at the right moment he injected dark energy right into its heart. Marion is shocked because the technique he used, but before she could finish, the redhead summons himself and says that he used dark death. Then he tells the kid that it's one of the technique he liked the most. Moving to Chris after he is done with the bear, that when our Chad realizes that he didn't deal with the lizard. But it doesn't give him any time to rest and attacks Chris, but he easily dodges the attack. But since it has 2 heads, the other one spits poison which he barely dodges. This lizard has 3 hearts, until he destroys all 3 of them at the same time. It will continue to regenerate, so he has to try a different approach. Using the dark energy as rope, he entangles the lizard with it, completely binding its movement. As he uses extreme force, the entire monster gets destroyed as all 3 cores get shattered under the force. Crazy Redhead says that what our Chad used was an applied version of dark destruction. Cosplaying Old Man says that he cannot see properly, so he should move aside. As he continues to get crazy, he asks Marion if she is the one who taught him this, but she instantly denies, telling him that she has no idea. He says that it's not something one can learn, but Redhead says that then there will be no need to learn dark magic. As for the clan leader, he remains quiet. Since our Chad is done dealing with them, he gets transported back to reality. And with a fox-like smile, he says that he had to think a lot, but it was a great lesson, giving credits to the leader. To add oil to the fire, as Marion and Redhead remains quiet, he says that thanks to the Lord he was able to learn how to apply dark magic on his own. He says that arrogance is a no, but he will begin the full-scale training of dark magic. He tells the turds to get out as they follow his orders. As they leave, Marion is concerned because this kid might be too hard on our Chad. He tells Chris that before the first magic transfer, he gives a question about what he thinks about dark magic. Chris tells him directly if it is to dominate the opponent with perfect dark energy. Hearing this, he asks him what perfect darkness does he mean. But Chris is nervous as he doesn't have an answer for this. He tells Chris to take a good look as he unlocks some kind of lock. The next second, the entire place starts shaking. He says that this is the beginning of all darkness as the entire place gets surrounded with dark energy. If he walks down the deep stairs, the 12 abyss awaits him and he should go and devour the Lord shrouded in darkness. In front of his hand a lot of energy accumulates, and a dagger made of pure energy forms. The old kid waves his dagger, feeling the attack. Our Chad thinks that it represents death and a single blow can kill him. It shatters the space behind Chris and he can't breathe properly because he remembers that it clearly cut his neck and passed by. The man explains that it is a sword of ideas that only cuts what it wants to cut. As the sword disappears he gets ready to leave, saying that he will give our Chad a month. In that time he should sharpen the black sword he just showed. As he leaves without telling him how to do it, our Chad is left confused. I don't get this, why are chapters getting smaller day by day? First thing in the morning Chris runs around the training area, then proceeds to do one-hand push-ups. Because of this intense training he is all sweaty as he takes off his shirt. His back has defined a lot. But it was all a dream since he has a long way to go, as he's still a skinny Barbie. Then he sits into a meditation pose, telling himself that he should go back to training. A pure dark energy form around his hands, it takes shapes into a dagger but it fails miserably. He is not quite satisfied since he has forgot count of how many times he has failed. Even when he manages to summon it, the most it lasts is 10 seconds. Moreover, it is nothing compared to the family head's black sword. That one was far more powerful and primal in darkness. He had said the following: climb the deep stairs and the 12 abysses will await you. Crow seeking wisdom accept it and praise it. Chris thinks that there must be a secret hidden in that incantation. Exactly 1 month after this scene, the duo Marion and cosplaying old man are coming down. He tells her that by now our Chad should have failed enough to realize his limits. He asks Marion if she is that worried about our boy. She says there must be a faster way, as he knows that there must be about 2 months left until the successor test. This cosplaying old man says that, with the purity of the dark mana he absorbed, rapid growth is impossible anyway. Even if he forces progress, he'll just hit a massive wall. So it's better to firmly build the basics. As they arrive and comes face to face with our Chad, he is extremely surprised. Because Chris had managed to manifest a dagger, as Chris tells him that he figured it was time for him to show up. As they are left shocked, Chris thanks the family head, telling him that it all because of him. That he managed to reach 3 stars faster than expected. Before he could finish, the sword disappears. Chris says that as he can see, faking it is the best he can do for now. He says that it took about a week to manifest the black sword. But to him it felt like a shell, the mysterious incantation he shared earlier. By 12 abysses, he meant the black sword must contain all attributes of mana. Hearing all this, the old man gets flabbergasted because it's the true black sword. Not only did he exceed his expectations, he even understood the full intent of the task. According to the clan leader, it usually takes a year just to manifest a basic black sword. And a lifetime isn't enough to comprehend 12 mana types and awaken the true black sword. Yet our Chad did all this in under a month. He really might be the lone hope found at the end of the cursed demonic path. This emotionless turd smiles, telling our Chad to be prepared as starting tomorrow. The teachings he will give him will not be easy. Instead of worrying, our Chad is just as confident as he says it's fine and trusts the family head. Since he is done with the first hurdle, he makes a cheeky face, thinking of raising a toast. He goes to the winery acting all crazy, jumping around left and right. He thinks he deserves a lucky break and he is drinking expensive liquor that he couldn't even dream of seeing before. He thinks it's better to drink this before Marie comes and take it away. Some calls for our Chad, turning around, it's a pretty face telling our Chad that he is drinking in broad daylight like always. Our Chad wonders who this 3-star demon is. Judging by her eye color, she is not someone from the dark family. With a straight face he asks her if she knows him. Hearing this, she gets and her attendant gets shocked. She asks him what he means by this, then proceeds to get extremely angry, so much so that she slaps him with mana. Because of this, our Chad falls to the ground, and the attendant tells her to let go, since there is no need to get associated with trash like our boy. As she turns around, the old man from the exam is here taking the wine bottle. Chris is very angry, saying that she is rude all of a sudden, asking him who she is, and he says that she is Princess Marissa of the Venom clan. Hearing this, he turns into a fool because she might really be his fiancée. to be precise his former fiancée. Chris is in a tough spot after this because he might have caused a problem. Moving to Marissa as she walks through the corridors, she is extremely pissed to the point that it clearly visible on her face. In a flashback we see a 8-year-old Marissa seen playing with ants. She thinks to herself that everyone is just going to talk to her brother, so she cannot understand why her father brought her to the dark family. As she was focusing on her ants, the busybodies tells themselves that she is an illegitimate child, saying if the Duke has lost his mind or what. Since his son is useless, they thinks that he is trying to sell his daughter off for a son-in-law. Feeling a presence, Marissa looks up to see Chris. He tells her what a kid is doing here all alone. Seeing him for the first time, she got charmed. Guess our boy got the looks. She says that she is not a kid, but Marissa, hearing this, our Chad calls her by her name. Then he proceeds to introduce himself. Hearing this, she realizes that he is the son of Count Khazar. Chris tells her to not mind what the adults have to say, and suggests her to pay them back when she grows up. At first she is taken aback, then she says that she will become the strongest demon and crush anyone that looks down on her. This even woos the original Chris as he blushes, telling her that she has ambition, as she gets shocked that the spirit of a true dark family demon. He gets up saying that since she is going to be the strongest, he better stay on her good side. He puts his hand forward, calling her the future strongest demon lady, saying if she will give him the honor of showing him around the dark family state. Hearing this, her face turns completely red. Moving to the present, she is trying to forget all this, saying that all this in the past. Even if the engagement was arranged for the sake of peace between the two families, the future she once dreamed of that kept her awake at night, that version of her is gone now, as rumors of his bad behavior has reached her ears, as tears overflow her eyes. Then a second later she reaches the Patriarch's office as he welcomes her. She greets him and he says what is her purpose for coming here. She says that he should be aware that a relic has appeared in the neutral zone between two families. This ugly turd asks her what the Venom clan plans to do about it, since the last time they took the relic. So he asks him if he is planning to concede this time, but she says that won't do, asking the leader if he would do the same if he were in the same position. With some grace he says that what she is looking for is a fair competition. She says that each family will send a team and whoever finds it first keeps it. But the team should be limited to 10 demons each, 3-star or lower, to prevent direct conflict between their families. She is smart as she says that if they were to suffer heavy losses, only the enemy will benefit, especially with the current instability in the Four Kings domain. This tapping master taps his table and tells her that he accepts their terms. She is actually smart, so she doubts why he is agreeing to this so easily. He adds a condition that if the Venom clan break the agreement, then they will claim not only this relic but the one they took last time as well. She wants him to elaborate what he means, and he says things like using underhanded tricks or sabotaging their team, since traps and ambushes are her speciality. With a serious look she tells him that it won't happen and accepts their additional condition. The turd then asks if she is personally going to lead the Venom clan's exploration team. Hearing this, she says that is the plan, as he says that he is looking forward to see the might of the famed 10,000 Venom. She greets him saying that they will await the Dark Family's team on the day of the expedition. As she leaves, this turd remains quiet for a few seconds and then gets up, staring intensely at the chessboard. She takes the Black King and knocks down the White Queen. As the king stands tall, this malnourished turd says that for Marissa, a beautiful stage filled with screams set. 2 months have passed and the seasons have changed. And while Chris poured himself into training, many others also began to change their paths. Some grew conflicted over a love that had passed, while those who lost in competition were left behind. Meanwhile, the jealous sharpened their blades, and others began to act for the future to come. While a mysterious figure hides herself, others began to act for the future to come. Chris comes faces to face with the useless leader as he tells him to prove his worth. Taking opportunity of this, he summons his dark blade. Seeing this, his older brother's face has turned black. Seeing their expression, Chris thinks that his expression is priceless. Cosplaying old man told him to not show the actual black sword, or he might assign an even harder task for him, telling him to act all high and mighty just because he is a genius. In the present, he is smirking, telling himself that he held back today like he was advised. but he is looking forward to see their shocked faces later on. The turd says that he will admit out Chad's achievements and assign him the second test. They will soon be dispatching demons to search for a relic that appeared in the neutral zone. Since the Venom clan is also participating, if he were to achieve merit there, he will acknowledge him as heir. Chris is surprised because it sounds a little too easy, so he asks him if he is doing this alone. He says that he will be joining the unit led by the second Princess Jupian. As this turd says that this mission was Roin's mission. As he is arrogant, he says that it is an opportunity beyond his standing, so he will treat it as an honor. Chris with a serious look says he will follow his orders. As he leaves, his turd brother asks his father that he is worried our Chad will earn more merit again. But he gets stopped as this turd tells him not be anxious since everything is going according to plan, telling him to be ready when the moment comes. As Chris comes out, he thinks to himself that he had expected to be sent to a life-threatening mission. But he has a bad feeling about this. As he recalls his word, he wonders what happened to the original Roin in the original timeline. Originally the one to be named successor this time wasn't Christian but Roin, but he never heard about him during the Great War. In the past, Chris was forced by his fox waifu to rush and pet her continuously. If he stops, he won't be telling her something, so he is forced to follow her wishes. She says that it was about the demon amulet incident, a relic conflict between the Dark family and the Venom family. It was an incident not widely known to the outside world. Even though the Dark family's squad was wiped out during the relic expedition, the Venom clan has suffered losses too, yet for some reason both sides kept it quiet. What matters is that this incident became the seed of disaster. She tells Chris that Nordian dies by the hand of his Somarquis Rangham. If not for that, the bloodletting demon king wouldn't have conquered the Dark family so easily. So the amulet incident accelerated the age of destruction. The annihilated Dark family squad, which means that instead of Roin being on the Fed list, it got replaced by our Chad. But without solid evidence it is too risky to act. Currently he has only a 3-star, so he cannot do much. So it is best to be prepared, so he needs to head outside. Jupian tells our Chad to wait, asking him where he is going with an attitude. Chris tells her why does it matter to her where he is going. She says that she heard that he is joining the exploration team this time too. She doesn't like it, but he will be covering Roin's place. Hearing this, our Chad says that he won't have to do anything right away, insulting him more, saying that he is an idiot who wouldn't have done anything right away. Hearing insults about her brother, she throws her dagger at blazing speed. Chris clearly sees the movement of the dagger. With grace he dodges the attack without even blinking. Seeing the graceful movement, she gets shocked. Chris says that was enough of a greeting. He says that since they cannot stand each other, so they should keep away from each other's sight. Without giving her a chance to speak, he says that he has matters to attend. As she takes back her blade, she is pissed because he managed to follow the movement with his eyes, yet he didn't dodge. He knew that she knew it on purpose, as she thinks that he might be more dangerous than she has thought. Since Chris has nothing to do, he roams around the city. He grabs himself a beer and chugs it down in a go. But before he could do it, the innkeeper moves it away from his mouth. He then goes to the gambling table and wins a lot of money. This pauper proceeds to run around with so many sticks of meat that the kid beside him gets depressed. Chris says that it has been long since he has a break and he can live his life just lazing around. As he continues to devour meat, he thinks some shop he is looking for must be around. But he will need to get rid of the pest following him first. He thinks it's a pain since they look like the people sent by that turd. All of a sudden a mysterious figure grabs onto, telling him to keep quiet. He looks at him to see a very pretty girl. Chris asks her who he is, and instead of answering this, she says that there is someone tailing her, but her men took care of them. Chris wonders how it can be reassuring as she gagged him and dragged him here. He asks her who she is, and she says something like the Four Kings Dominion. Hearing this, Chris gets shocked. She says that she is someone trying to stop the unrest spreading in the Dominion. They should move somewhere else, as she asks him if he will join her. Chris keeps quiet for a second, then proceeds to tell her to lead the way. As they go deep into the alleys, Chris asks her just far are they going to go. She continues her story, saying that the demons in the king's domain are disappearing without a trace. Even in the safe zones in the city are being destroyed day by day. As Chris should be aware that the Dominion is plagued by the conflict between 3 families. It a place ruled by feet, and the family head couldn't care less about the lives of ordinary demons. That's why she has concluded that purging the criminal forces will require help from multiple families. But she cannot expect help empty-handed, so she will give information that could calm the storm in the Dark family. She says that Marquis Rangham is colluding with a high-ranking member of the Venom clan. And their goal is to assassinate Princess Marissa of the Venom clan. Hearing this, Chris gets shocked and nervous since they are not only targeting him but even Marissa. He cannot understand why they are trying to do this. If both families lose their core figures, the instigators in the Dominion will grow even bolder. Eventually, the balance among the 12 demon clans will collapse, bringing greater tragedy. That's why she wants to ask him to prepare thoroughly for this expedition. As she reveals her face with zeal in her face, she says she hopes he will become the Dark family's successor and stand against those who threaten peace. Chris is confused since she is even aware of the Relic expedition, and praises their intel for finding it out. Chris with a straight face asks her why he should trust her since she has no proof. If she wants to cooperate, she has to put something on the line. She gets flabbergasted for a second, but Chris is intentionally asking her to buzz off if there is no collateral. She tells him to wait and pulls something out from her robe. Seeing this, he gets shocked to the point he gets quiet. As he bids her farewell, she turns around as well and a figure emerges from his shadow, as she tells it why she cannot show her true self to Chris. A demonic figure says that it's for her own sake, because if Chris ends up in danger and drops her information, it will only make things worse. As she starts transforming, she tells him that she will watch from the sidelines for now, and she goes by the name Idrin. Moving back to Chris, he walks normally but then starts laughing like crazy. Because she have him a VIP card, which is exactly what he was looking for. The Dark Auction House, a secret method of dealing in smuggled relics and rare creatures. Only nobles or verified rich buyer are issued entry cards. Back then none of the hero party had a card, so it was very hard to enter this place. The card states the name Ria de Wolfman, which is a never he never heard before. He remembers about what happened earlier, but it's too early to trust him. So it better for him to prepare a bit more for the expedition. Chris tells a man that he wants to send a carrier pigeon. The man tells him to write him a message and send it. Chris writes something that is unreadable for us as a cute owl flies, while Chris sees it leave. He tells himself that this is done, now he has to pay a visit to some guy, Sue at his Barbie outfit. Our new Chad, after turning into this masked dandy, goes to the black market. But he gets stopped as a nobody says that there isn't a place for someone like him, so he should get lost. Since Chris doesn't want to talk rubbish, he shows his card, saying if he will say this even after showing this. After seeing the card, he gets baffled but gains his composure, saying that he apologizes and he will show him the way. After going inside, the entire place is filled with luxurious items. Amidst this, our Chad is busy collecting aura points. The attendant gets shocked welcoming him, asking if he really is Ria de Wolfman. Chris the retard says that yes, he is Ria de Wolfman for today, and if there is a problem. Even this guy won't believe it since his voice sounds fake. Moreover, it's the voice of a dude, but since he cannot do much, he says never mind. He gets back to reality when Chris asks him if he can escort him to the branch manager. He stands at his place shockingly, but after hearing this, Chris goes around flaunting his card, asking him if H didn't hear him to go and bring the branch manager. After seating him into a luxurious room, the man rushes outside telling him that he will bring him right away. Looking around the room, he says that everything is top-notch, which is expected of the Rudolph Merchant Guild. The Rudolph Guild is a massive guild that even rivals the Union's Deer Guild, so influential that they run entire black markets, controlling all nearby trade routes in the Dark Empire, and there is a saying that if Rudolph can't get it, no one can. As a new femboy wearing flashy clothes enter the scene, he introduces himself as Rubid, the branch manager of this auction house, and the head of the Rudolph Guild. As he takes a seat, he asks Chris if there is something he is looking for. Our Chad takes off his mask, and tells him to bring Rowena to him. Hearing this, he gets surprised. Then asks him what he means. Hearing this, Chris asks him if Ed doesn't know Rowena. Acting like a fool, he says that she is the guild master of the Deer Guild. But even they cannot summon a guild master of the Union on demand. Chris makes a villainous face, telling him that can't be right. Since she is standing right here, hearing these words, this femboy has gone dead silent. Then tries to act dumb, asking Chris what he is talking about. But he gets hit on the spot as Chris says the relic must be working too well. Then says that they will be seeing each other often, so he better drop the act. Since he has no other way, he takes of the relic, and instantly his body starts glowing, and this femboy herself is Rowena. She asks him how he knows about this, and Chris continues to smile like a psycho. In his past life he messed up a lot and she took his money. But last year he paid her back several times over. In the present he says that she should be ashamed to use such trash relic as the head of the Rudolph Guild. And this disguise is sloopy at best. Hearing Chris's words, she thinks it should be like this. In reality this pauper is bluffing since he cannot see through the relic's effects. Then Chris proceeds to roast her, saying that her face might be too big to cover it properly. This offends her, saying it's not okay, just look at her face. She tells him he is not good either since he is not Rhea de Wolfman either. And he has been getting a bit of a reputation in the Dark Empire lately. There's lots of talk about your refined style and whatnot, but judging by this behavior, you're not quite there yet. Using a stolen identity to enter a members only business. He cannot have complaints if she kick him out. Chris gets pissed, telling her who is threatening who, as he asks her why he should spread rumors about how a union's rat is doing business in the Dark Empire. Hearing this, she has no choice, so he asks him what is it that he wants from her. After a while this Mario gets out like he has achieved something. In reality he has sucked little Shoddy dry. Chris thinks he has gotten just enough from her. She thinks it was straight up blackmail, but Chris says it will save the world, so Shu should be grateful. Of course this won't drastically boost their power. But among them Random's plan, we might be able to counter a couple them. In some other place some turds are practicing. As Chris was walking away, the busybody stops him, saying what he is doing, wandering off too. They are deploying in 2 days, so he should come join training. Chris says he has goofed of all day and now he is tired. And he plans to be as useless as Royne, so why should he bother training? As he bids them farewell, the redhead becomes pissed, but since this girl is smart she tell him to leave Chris be. As if he can do anything to our Chad, look at his face. As she tells him he is not worth the opportunity, but in her mind she wonder why he doesn't want to earn merit. It will be his loss, but she cannot understand why he is acting stupid. This part starts with Chris as he is with, and these two are currently staring at some plants. She asks our Chad what he will do with these, and Chris tells her that it is none of his business, all while he stares at the herbs. Then she drops a wooden case and opening it reveals an elegant looking fan, telling Chris he is not really in a position to be picky these days. As Reyna was about to take her leave, she tells Chris that she is not aware of what he is plotting, but her identity will stay secret. Chris tells her that he will see her soon. Hearing this, he says that she would rather not see him again. With a cold tone he calls Reyna by both her names and says that a war might break down. Hearing this, she instantly turns around, as Chris says that she is someone who travels between the Union and the Dark Empire. So she should be aware of how unstable the situation is, and if a war was to break out the routes will close. And she will have to cut of either the Union or the Empire, which means her profit will be cut in half. She says what he is saying is a leap of faith and not some children's game. But Chris's words instantly shuts her off, telling her that considering the rumors out of the Dominion lately, it's not total nonsense. She thinks to herself that it is true and that the atmosphere hasn't been great lately, and there are a lot of families pushing for war with Union. As she goes through a letter which states that the Dark Clan is planning to start a war with the Union. She moves on to Chris, telling him why he is telling him all this. She tells Chris that he should know that she is a mere merchant and she can stop a war. Chris agrees on her as well, but asks her that she should become his sponsor and he will make sure that the future without war happens. She gets even more confused as she tells him how he will go around this. Chris says that she should know that for the Dominion to wage war, they have to pass through the Southern Magic Nation, where the Dark family resides, but if he were to become the heir this time and prepare for war, they must avoid the worst, and that's her only chance to keep her revenue from being halved. After finishing his sentence, Chris lends his hand to her and seeing his eyes she sees that he doesn't have the eyes of a liar. So she thinks that 5 investing on our Chad might be worth it after all. As they shake hands, she tells him that if he were to betray her trust even once, she is done. Chris tells her that he doesn't speak with 2 tongues. But in his mind he thinks that there is enough reasons to exploit her. He tells her to take care, calling her a money grub. In the evening Chris is busy turning the herbs into something. He says that even a high-ranking Venom clan figure is involved, so he better make antidote. It's been a while since he made one, so he wonders if he still has his skills. As he continues to boils the herbs into a special stove. In a flashback we move to the noble house of medicine, where Chris is learning how to make medicine. But he is failing at it when a sick person tells her to fan it harder. She goes by the name Ella and she is 26th head of the medicine clan. She tells Chris some herbs only draw out their effects over strong flames. He tells her not to nag him and lie down. The first time he met her was on the battlefield during the First Great War. Though she was young, she has no choice but to enter the battlefield. Because the bloodletting demon king had annihilated her clan. As the noble house of medicine was the best among the Union's 7 great houses in healing art, they were an eyesore to the demon king. And even she couldn't escape the demon king's blade. Moving to Chris making medicine as she observes him, saying that no matter how she looks at it, he is one strange guy. He managed to recreate the clan's elixir with just a rough explanation. She is sad that she met him this late and at such a time. He mocks her, saying that it is a so-called noble house for being saint, even the head is frail and sickly. She coughs, saying that the only reason she is alive after the demon king's attack is all thanks to her medicine. As cough led to her bleeding, she says that she can't be lying around like this. In this hellish world there is not end to those writhing in pain. As Chris turns around, she tells him that it is tragic that the house of the medicine ends here. Hearing her words, he looks the other way, telling her to not cling onto the past and focus on recovering. Hearing this, she smiles and then looks through a pile of books, telling Chris that the book contains their clan's secret. Only a portion of it survived the war, but he should accept it. As her coughing intensifies, Chris tells her to get some rest. She grabs onto his hand and tells him Chris to save those who suffer in her place. If he can do that, she can close her eyes in peace. Hearing this, Chris remains quiet, then tells her only if she will allow him to call her master. Hearing this, she smiles and then says that calling someone like her, who can't even teach properly, guess she managed to choose the right disciple after all. As Chris cosplays into a medical saint, he is crowned as the 27th head of the noble medicine clan. He thinks to himself that because the books were damaged, he couldn't master the clan's secret techniques completely. But he roamed around the battlefield to keep her promise, and because of that he was known as the saint of the battlefield. As he manages to make the pellet, he calls for his master, saying that he is probably living well somewhere, and even in this life he will keep the promise he made to her. As an eagle soars into the sky, we move Chris's original house. And his father has gotten a letter from Out Chad, as he is aware that according to her sister he obtained the Dark Core, just like him. As he tries to read the letter. As he reads the letter, he instantly gets serious, telling his attendant that he will need to make some preparation for his son. This part starts at the Baskin Mountain, which is the border ID the Dark Clan and Venom Clan. The so-called team leader tells her team to move in teams of 2 as they all agree to her orders. There is an exception. Our Chad tells her that he will go alone. She says at the pace of a snail, when does she expect them to finish searching this place? The Venom Clan already searched through this place, and they will probably beat them up to it again. She tells Chris that this is a zone where a class 4 or higher demonic beast appears, so he should not expect rescue if he is in trouble. Chris instead tells her to not drag them all down herself, so he takes out an antidote that counters the Venom Clan's poisons. She tells him that she doesn't need it since she has already taken her ones. Chris tells her that compared to those cheap ones, his is far better. So she should take it even if she thinks he is bluffing. As he eats 2 in front of herself, he tells her to suit herself, pissing her. That's when Marissa enters the scene, telling them if an internal strife is already brewing. Seeing her come, this turd call her a slowpoke. With a straight face she tells her that she has arrived exactly on time, and she is just impatient. Them taunts her, saying that she should praise her for not cheating by scouting ahead. She tells her that she should have received the rules, that there is no setting traps or ambushing others during the exploration. Hearing this, Marja tells her that she should watch her tone. In response, she says they are enemies, so there is no reason for them to speak formally. Marissa gets close to her, saying that there is no need for all this. She orders all the Dark members to move out. As for Marissa, she tells them to start exploration and check their commuters before proceeding. Chris drops something and tells them that he is taking his leave. Eve gets shocked when she sees that Chris ditched his commuter and left. Our Chad roams around the place hunting monster. In his past life he roamed the demon lands endlessly, so now he can distinguish beast habits with his eyes closed. For class 4 beasts he will need to go much deeper in. That's when he think if her third cousin was worried about him. But he denies, saying that she seems like someone who wouldn't bleed even if stabbed. Besides that, he thinks that the Marquis schemes have already begun, yet it seems like there aren't any assassins lurking yet. But first he will need to find the lyrics. He turns around to see some movement, and it's none other than Marissa. There is an awkward silence between them, and Chris thinks to himself that he ended up moving along the Venom clan's route. He apologizes to her, saying that they have gotten their paths mixed, so he will head the other way. Marissa in a shy tone tells him to be careful, but he is nervous. All of a sudden a thought floods his mind. Their main goal was to harm Marissa, and he wonders who is high enough in the Venom clan willing to sacrifice Marissa. So this turd tells her that he is curious about something, and she asks him what it is that she wants. Then proceeds to ask her that she is an illegitimate daughter, further asking her if she is hated at home. Hearing this, she thinks that he really is the worst of the worst. Chris didn't mean to say it like that way, but T blurted out. Even in his past life he was not treated as a person at home, so he definitely crossed the line. He tells her if she sounded rude he apologizes, but something grazes him. He gets shocked when he sees her attack, as she tells him to apologize properly while tears drips from her eyes. Chris is shocked by her reaction, and according to how mad she has gotten, it doesn't seem like a family feud, so he needs to find the one behind this scheme to learn their real motive. But until then she is going to remain in danger, even if she joins the Venom clan expeditions, so it's unclear if she will survive. For now, until reinforcements arrive, all they have to do is just buy time. Chris tells her that she is breaking the rules right now. She cannot understand what he means, and Chris says even the tree proves it. She struck first, which means the Dark Clan gets to keep the lyric. She disagrees, saying that for insulting her family and considering the disgrace she has to endure because of the broken engagement. As she takes out more bottles of poison, she says that it is self-defense. She throws multiple bottles towards him, causing Chris to fall to the ground. As the poison floods his entire body, she asks him how her blue bloom is reacting. She says that with one signal she can make it explode and all poison will rush through his veins. So he should apologizes to her right now. She throws in a few more bottles and it becomes foggy, yet a hand summons itself. As our Riz god grabs onto her and looks her right in the eye, saying that he surely cannot do that. As a blue aura radiates from Chris, he grabs onto her and tells Marissa that they don't call her the little Venom witch for nothing. As she is still surprised, he tells her that he heard that it hurts like hell when it's detoxified. As she pulls away her hand, she tells him it is not possible because only she has the antidote for this poison. Chris says that if she has heard of the Divine Healer clan, taking inspiration from them, and whipped something up himself. As he was trying to name his pill, she asks Chris what she is even saying. Before she could say anything more, she gets knocked out, and as she loses conscious, our Riz Lord grabs onto her and tells her to rest and he will definitely save her. Although she managed to collect aura, our Chad ruined it as he tied her to tree. Then he proceeds to take her communicating amulet and using it he commands her team something. As we shift to them, the message they receive, it's shocking as after reading it they get puzzled. The message orders them to scout the cliffs, which is the opposite side of their current location. Moving to Chris, he is happy, cheering that now he won't have to run into turds from the Venom clan. In the huge terrain a figure is rushing with great speed, and it is none other than our Chad. He says that items imbued with the power of demon or constellations either have been hidden for ages, or they have newly fallen fro heavens. It is as they are daring the lowly creatures of earth to make use of them. The relic that was discovered this time was probably the Twilight Amulet. According to his yet-to-appear fox waifu, this artifact was neglected due to uncertain powers, until the Marquis figured out how to use it after 2 years of research. And because of it, the cosplaying old man got killed. In this life he cannot allow this to even slightly delay the world's destruction. That when he notices something and decides to slow down, dropping from the tree. Then he proceeds to check his surrounding and notice one of the leaves damaged. That is when he notices footprints in the demon zone where no one is supposed to live. Since relic cannot grow legs, it seems that someone got here before our Chad. As he is currently using invisibility, he overhears the three people and the one in the center is cursing someone by calling them worms. Chris analyzes that the one in the middle is from the Venom clan, and he is a 4-star at that. As for the women, she is maybe around 5-star. The mysterious man on the other hand doesn't have Venom clan energy, moreover all his core's murky. This new turd curses Marissa saying that she is behind all this trouble, and it would be better if she just dropped dead. Judging from how he talks, it is probably a direct heir of the Venom clan. And all this is probably about the succession war, as the rogue turd says if he should wipe all the pest in this case he means all participants. The so-called heir says that it would be better since they agreed to hand over the relic. As one of them wonders what might be in the box, the kid says that it's none of their business since it will go to Marquis Langham. And all they have to do is to take care of Marissa, so he commands them to take her care of the ants and they follow his commands, leaving the scene immediately. Chris realizes that now only the dumbest looking is left, and he could probably take him head-on since he is a 4-star, but there is no need to go through trouble. As Chris tries to figure out a way to steal the relic without causing a ruckus. That when he spots some monkey and gives off a wicked smile. As the turd was yawning, a huge load of turd floods his head. That when he realizes that he has been hit by actual turd, and all this is done by the group of monkey. In reality, Chris used his dark energy to influence them, causing them to fight each other. As they both monkeys are busy fighting, Chris takes the opportunity to grab the box, but since he is not normal he plans out a prank. He takes out a unique pendant and never though he would use it, as it is a summoning stone he got gifted that can store beasts up to grade 4. As he uses the artifact, a small spatial rift forms, and putting his hand inside it he takes out another box that looks the same. But funny enough, he tweaked the second hand box Luna gave him and turned it brand new. Then without any remorse he swaps the boxes and proceeds to see what is the artifact that he actually got. But he gets shocked the second he sees that it is the Twilight Amulet. After some time Marissa gains consciousness, and seeing herself tied she wonders just what is going on. That's when she remembers that she had encountered our Chad. Just remembering about this, she gets mad, then she goes on to acting like a kid. Because not only did he apologize and now he pulls this crap on her. Then she continues to blabber how he could do this and if she is a joke to her. That when a voice grabs her attention, and it was specifically looking for her. It was none other than Melon, asking her if she really is the princess of the Venom clan. Seeing her, Marissa asks who she really is, then the scene shifts to another place, where Jupian looks at the antidote she has brought. Seeing her actions, one of the guard asks why she gave another pill to Chris. Even she wonders why did she bother trusting him. A member tells her that she has checked this side and it is all clear. She asks her assistant if the far side is still being searched. He agrees, saying that they are coming this way, yet he wonders if Chris will be alright, and Jupian starts creating scenarios in her mind. But she is confused since he took off on his own accord, so what can he expect her to do? That's when a voice grabs her attention, saying that they have found the relic. As he hands her the box, she says that it took longer than they had anticipated. Nonetheless, they beat the Venom clan to it. Since the mission is complete, she orders everyone to regroup at Lunkus Canyon. As the group continues to move the relic first, one of them tell her that they found the relic doesn't mean they beat the Venom clan. She thinks about Chris, wondering if he is dead. So she orders Squad 1 and Squad 2 stay back and search for Chris. The red turd curses our Chad, saying why they should bother. She says he might be a pain, but he is a blood from the main house, so even if it is his corpse they need to bring it back. As they were about to commence, a huge explosion occurs in one of the mountains. Moreover, the ones behind them also come down simultaneously. One of them wonders what is happening as all of there have been blocked. Jupian tells everyone to stay alert since they are currently under attack. That's when blue flowers cover their body. From above, some cloaked figures keep an eye on them. As they collapse on the ground, the figure says that is over, since she used the blue flower, which is Marissa's ultimate poison. She stole it from her lab, so no one other than her will be suspected. As she gets down, she thinks that although it is risky to do this near the Dark Clan's outpost, she wants to wipe them all, of which is the best option. The next part is to plant the relic in Marissa's lab since she is done here. All of a sudden a dagger flies towards her with immense speed, which she dodges easily. Then she takes out a poison-laced weapon, saying that she has no choice but to kill her. and even mocks Jupian that even if she was healthy she was not much of a challenge. Jupian tells herself that this turd is at least a 5-star demon. And she cannot believe that Marissa would stab them in their back like this. The rogue turd says that she will end this fast and charges towards her. But she has to move aside at the last moment because of needles aimed towards her. It's Marissa that stopped her, accompanied by Melon. She cannot understand how she got here, since she ordered her mole to guide her to the canyons. Looking at Melon, she is nervous because she is the vice-captain of the Black Swamps Knights. Melon praises Marissa, saying that she was pretty fast. Hearing this, she tells him to keep quiet since they are not close. Then she confronts the veiled woman, telling her that she has guts to try and frame her. She asks her to reveal herself, and all she replies is to tell her to know her place. Waving her hand, she summons her back up, and Melon says that currently they have 2 3-star and 1 5-star, which clearly outnumber the. Jupian comes to the conclusion that whoever did this knew the expedition lacked high-level fighters. At this rate, all of them will end up dying. From the top of the cliff, a voice tells them that seeing them here is a crazy coincidence. Looking carefully, Jupian and Marissa are both shocked because it's Chris, who is making a face as if everything is going their way.